Get ready, because you and I are about to witness the ultimate comeback. 100 years ago, a cosmic meteor struck the demon realm, and now, a terrifying beast warns our main character his journey is over. The beast demands to know what desperate wish brought him all this way. Our hero simply replies that he just wants to return to the place he once called home. Laughing in his face, the massive dragon mocks him, calling his hard-fought wish completely pathetic and meaningless, especially since the young man knew he could never achieve it. The dimensional orb allowing interdimensional travel is literally fused inside his heart. Smiling, our hero asks if the beast has any idea how much agonizing pain he went through to find it. He then reveals he has been trapped in that cursed demon world for 100 years. Preparing to strike, the dragon tells him to feel lucky because his insignificant life ends right here. Proving him dead wrong, our protagonist declares it is finally time to end this. Suddenly, his body erupts with a blinding light, genuinely terrifying the great dragon. Totally bewildered, the creature demands to know what this disturbing light is and why his wounds are instantly healing. Looking closer, the dragon realizes this is no ordinary recovery skill. Fully restored, our hero asks the monster if it will hand over the dimensional orb peacefully, or if he needs to tear it out. The wide-eyed dragon realizes it is facing an absolute monster. Suddenly, a devastating blow strikes the beast, forcing it to cough up thick black blood. Grabbing what he came for, our boy apologizes, saying he has waited way too long. Without even giving the dragon a second to react, the massive creature collapses to the ground. Minsu, the ultimate healer, looks at the glowing orb, while his spirit companion Frey asks if he really spent a century just to destroy a demon dragon ball. Telling him to shut up, our hero absorbs the dimensional orb. Now pay attention, because as a massive portal opens beneath his feet, he smiles and says he is finally going home, back to his disciples and his younger brother waiting on Earth. After a long, blinding transition, he wakes up in the middle of a forest. Shocked, he bolts upright, calling out for Frey. Frey complains that he is too busy throwing up in his spiritual stomach from severe motion sickness to think about food. Getting up, Minsu tells him to just deal with it and digest it already. Frey warns him the result won't be pretty. Our hero tells him to shut up before he pukes too, then looks around, wondering if this is actually Earth since the scenery looks totally unfamiliar. Stroking his chin, the protagonist notes that the mana flow feels exactly like being inside a portal. Suddenly, he senses something is terribly wrong, prompting Frey to scream, asking if he was a total scam. Minsu mutters that this can't be happening again. Thanks to the brutal side effects of crossing dimensions, he is currently sitting at only 20% of his maximum power. A mysterious system voice warns him to recover quickly before he gets kicked out. But our hero knows it is not that easy last time. It took him decades to fully regain his strength. Frey is completely outraged by the setback, but our boy notes he can still use his basic abilities. Meanwhile, deep in the woods, a terrified girl gets separated from her group. She panics, wondering why a high-level monster is spawning so early. Screaming for help, she ends up tripping over a rock and falling flat on her face. Looking back at the approaching beast, she closes her eyes and braces for death. But out of nowhere, Minsu appears, easily crushing the creature before asking a simple question: is this Earth? Terrified, the girl nods, and our hero quickly realizes he is back in Korea, in the year 2037. Thinking it through, he remembers being sucked into the portal in 2027, meaning 100 years in the demon realm was only 10 years on Earth. Curious, he asks who the current president is. Confused, she replies that it is Troyude. Annoyed, our boy asks if she is talking about that one-eyed brute, realizing they have some serious history. It turns out Minsu and Troyude do not get along at all. He openly questions how there was nobody better for the job, while the poor girl wonders if she is trapped inside some crazy regression webtoon. Completely unbothered, our hero asks if they are inside a portal. Wait, let's look at this together. The girl explains they are inside the tutorial tower, a system that popped up years ago, acting as a massive gate for hunters. Clearing the tower lets people awaken their hidden powers and gain new skills. The higher your clear rank, the better the guilds you can join. Stretching. Minsu asks if all he has to do is beat this place to leave. She says yes, but it normally takes 8 weeks. Unless you're a genius like Ryawan, who cleared it in just 3 weeks. Our protagonist simply takes a deep breath. Suddenly, a massive, menacing troll tiger appears right in front of them. Shaking with fear, the girl tells him they need to run immediately. After a brief pause, our boy grumbles that 3 weeks is way too long, especially since his sluggish mana flow is holding his body back. Screaming, the girl asks if his academy never taught him to run from a beast like this. Proving he is not the running type, Minsu blasts the tiger without even turning around, casually claiming that 5 days should be more than enough to clear this entire tower. Elsewhere, a guild member reports to Min-san, the master of the elite Empire Guild, that a hunter has just exited the tutorial tower. Surprised, the master admits that's impressive for an 8-week run. But the girl reveals the real issue: this person wasn't on the official entry list. There is zero record of them ever entering the tower, and now this mysterious guy is causing a scene outside. Looking at Minsu's photo, Min-seon's eyes widen in sheer shock, showing he knows our hero all too well. Back in the forest, the rookie girl is left standing there completely stunned. In her mind, she can't comprehend how any human could clear the tutorial tower in just 5 days. Suddenly, a system notification pops up, starting the status analysis and skill compatibility process. But a red warning immediately flashes, stating the process failed and the exit portal is opening. Minsu gets ready to step through, leaving the dumbfounded girl behind in utter disbelief. Realizing he is abandoning her, she screams for them to leave together. But our hero is only focused on finally being back in Seoul. On the other side, an association guard spots them. A bulky officer asks what all the noise is about, while his younger colleague points out that the portal opened, but something is seriously wrong. Rolling his eyes, the big guy recalls seeing the short-haired girl on the roster. Approaching them, he demands to know what is going on. The younger staff member explains that the guy stepping out of the portal isn't registered on the entry list at all. Staring closely, the Team 2 leader silently wonders how this scrawny kid managed to clear the deadly tower and walk out without a single scratch on him. Shoving the clerk aside, the buff leader steps up to handle things, demanding to know who Minsu is and why he isn't listed. Our hero calmly replies that he simply didn't enter through their portal. Yelling in frustration, the muscular man demands to know how someone could exit a portal without ever going in. Minsu simply shrugs and says that is just how it happened. Annoyed by his attitude, the Team 2 leader snaps that some rookies have zero respect. Grabbing our hero's head, he warns him that even if he awakens some stealth skill, he better stop playing around if he wants to live. Getting no response, the brute threatens to rip his face off right there. Laughing, Minsu tells the guy to shut his mouth because his disgusting breath is killing him. He tells him that if he is going to threaten to rip his face off, he should stop talking and just attack while holding his breath so he doesn't suffocate our hero. Absolutely enraged, the leader prepares to throw a deadly punch. With a relaxed smirk, our boy mockingly asks if he is completely deaf, reminding the angry officer that he already told him to shut his mouth. And that's where we leave it. Later on, Min-seon and the girl are left completely speechless, looking at the bruised security team scattered all over the floor. The Tide guy reports the mysterious fighter vanished after the brawl. Trust me, you are going to want to see what he does next. Let's dive right into this crazy search as a guild leader demands security footage of our mysterious powerhouse. The assistant pulls up the video, showing the exact second the chaos started. He explains that this guy wiped out 5 trained hunters in moments before completely vanishing, likely using some high-level stealth skill. But the guild master disagrees, realizing the culprit is just insanely fast. Secretly, he knows it's actually Sue, and the guy hasn't changed a bit over the last 10 years. After a tense silence, Sai orders a wanted notice. He demands that once they track the kid down, they simply say his name and bring him in. As the search party deploys, the guild master wonders where the kid has been all this time and where he's heading next. Suddenly, his eyes lock onto the female hunter who exited the portal alongside him. Shaking, the girl stammers that she barely did anything because that mysterious guy carried the whole raid. Saijun just smiles, noting that clearing it so fast means she must have unlocked some amazing new skills. Blushing, she reveals she scored a highly coveted A- rank ability. Immediately, the leader makes his move, inviting her to sign an exclusive contract with his elite Empire Guild. The girl is absolutely thrilled, gushing about what a massive honor this is for her family. But their moment is ruined when an interloper loudly calls the Empire Guild a bunch of bandits. The angry team leader snaps at him to watch his mouth. Smiling, Ryu Jawan, an S-rank powerhouse from the Junggang Guild, casually claims he meant no offense while making some highly calculated moves. Then, Koi Samuel, another S-rank heavy hitter from the White Lion Guild, chimes in, saying they all got summoned by the association. He asks if this unregistered rookie really took down all those guards. Looking at the battered security chief, the gray-haired hunter remarks that this kid is definitely a major troublemaker. Pay close attention here. They realize this kid might be an elite monster, leading to a savage bet whoever finds him first keeps him, no matter how dirty they have to play. Sai glares back with deep suspicion. Koi breaks the tension, proposing they all hunt separately, but keep each other updated if they find anything. Walking off, the gray-haired hunter promises to call them once he nabs the kid. The annoyed Empire leader scoffs, knowing there is absolutely no way. Leaving headquarters, Ryu orders Jinsik to assemble their top-tier hunters into specialized tracking units. Curiously, the blue-haired subordinate asks exactly who they are trying to hunt down. Smirking, he reveals they are tracking Min Sigan's younger brother. Meanwhile, Frey questions why our protagonist's first stop back on Earth is a greasy fried chicken joint. But one bite of that legendary golden chicken completely blows the little creature's mind. After devouring every scrap, he eagerly asks where they are off to next. Our boy replies there is only one destination: home. A few hours later, he pulls up to a modest, worn-down house and quickly slips inside through the old wooden gate. Instantly, war memories flood back of his father playfully scolding him for being late, and his mother welcoming him with freshly cooked food. Back then, they would all happily gather around the table together, excited to share a meal as a family. But now, the house is completely abandoned, buried under thick cobwebs and empty bottles. The bleak sight instantly dampens his mood. Sitting silently on the porch, he struggles to recall his parents' faces, reflecting on how, for some, forgetting is a blessing from God. But for him, it was a pure curse. Trapped for 100 years in the demon realm with fading senses and a frozen body, Su constantly feared he would be completely erased by that very curse. That is why he held on to precious memories of his younger brother and disciples like a lifeline, refusing to let his past fade away, which kept him sane for a whole century. Frey notes the house feels incredibly lonely compared to their cozy demon realm home. Standing up, our boy points out there's no fried chicken in the demon realm, instantly shutting him down. He explains he only stopped by to see the place. You and I both know a peaceful reunion is too much to ask for, and sure enough, a hostile guild suddenly surrounds our boy out of nowhere. The leader, a C-rank hunter named Ambon, barks that they've been tracking him forever. Our protagonist just stares back, dryly asking if he wants a round of applause for that. The thug proudly repeats his guild's name, but our boy couldn't care less. Annoyed, the brute threatens to beat him until he is begging for mercy on his knees. Smirking, Su mockingly remarks that even gorillas are somehow getting hunter licenses these days. Furious, the red-haired brute charges his lightning power, ordering his crew to teach this punk a painful lesson. He rushes forward and lands a massive blow, sending our hero flying straight through a solid brick wall. Laughing, the giant asks, "Who's a gorilla now?" The thugs laugh, mocking him for getting knocked out with his hands still in his pockets. But analyzing the guy's lightning trait, Su casually asks Frey if he wants to eat it. Frey is ecstatic, eager to taste his very first Earthborn ability. Dusting himself off, our hero tells him to go right ahead. Before the brute can even react to the kid's blinding speed, he gets absolutely flattened by a devastating counterattack. His face is slammed into the dirt, leaving his crew completely frozen in shock. Promptly, Su unleashes Frey, forming an eerie magic circle underneath them. Within moments, the skill extraction process is declared a complete success. Frey remarks it wasn't half bad, though definitely not as tasty as chicken. Enraged, another lackey grinds his teeth and commands the remaining thugs to swarm Su. It's the perfect chance to test drive his newly stolen skill. As he triggers it, a flurry of lightning-fast strikes rains down, making the thugs realize they are completely outmatched. Naturally, our protagonist finishes him off with a heavy kick that sends the thug spitting blood. He just executed a lethal technique, which scales beautifully with a proper weapon. Picking up a discarded knife from his defeated foe, he notes the blade is dull but decides it's good enough for a quick test run. Suddenly, a familiar voice calls out, halting him mid-swing. Turning around, he freezes in absolute shock to see his teary-eyed younger brother standing right there, while Su is left speechless, holding a rusty knife. 2 decades ago, mysterious gates suddenly ruptured across their peaceful world, plunging human society into absolute, lawless chaos. Deadly monsters flooded the streets alongside the first generation of superpowered, awakened individuals. With no laws left to govern them, pure, unadulterated barbarism ruled the lands for a very long time. During that brutal era, Su and his brother lost their parents, forcing the young protagonist to drop out of school and become an active hunter just to feed them both. Back then, little Shun asked why he wasn't going to school, and Su replied he had to work. When the boy blamed himself, Su jokingly claimed he was just terrible at studying anyway. Clinging to his brother's sleeve, the young boy asked when he'd return. With a reassuring smile, Su promised he'd be back soon. Returning to the present, Su is stunned by how gorgeous his brother's new mansion is. The boy explains he made his fortune using the very skills Su had taught him. And that is where we leave it for now. Trust me, watching this sibling bond is going to be incredibly satisfying. Let's dive into the story where Sejun realizes this absolute monster is indeed his long-lost brother, immediately demanding to know where on earth he has been hiding for the last 10 years. Our main character just smiles, telling him to grab a seat because he has 100 years of stories to tell. Once they settle down with some food, the younger brother recaps the crazy truth 10 years ago. After defeating the fourth demon lord, an ancient artifact dragged our hero into another dimension. For an entire century, he trained, hunted down dragons with dimensional magic, and finally crushed the Dragon King to seize the dimensional orb that brought him back home to Earth. Confirming the wild tale, Sue reveals the predator hitched a ride back and is currently inside his own body, leaving Sejun terrified that his brother might be possessed. But Sue explains it is more like a parasite, warning him not to think he has lost his mind. His glass-wearing brother smiles, saying in a world this crazy, he completely believes him, and he is just happy to have his brother back. Scanning the files on the current president, Dao, Sue decides it is his brother's turn to explain how this corrupt country let a scumbag like that rise to the absolute top. Sejun explains that Dao stole all the credit for slaying the fourth demon king, earning the title of the strongest first-generation hunter and riding that fake glory straight to the presidency. The glasses-wearing brother worries about what Dao will do once he discovers the true hero is alive, but our main character calmly asks if those punks from earlier were just the president's lackeys. But his brother shakes his head, explaining that South Korea is ruled by 7 massive guilds known as the Heptagram. This elite group includes the Empire Guild, the Infinity Guild, the Junggang Guild, the White Lion, Warrior Fighter, Blue Flower, and Frozen Soul guilds. The attackers actually belong to the Jung Guild, led by Hunter Ryu, someone our hero plans to deal with very soon. Our main character then asks about his old disciples. Sejun nervously admits he lost contact, only knowing that Shilong went home and Kang Hova is now trapped under Cho Dae-soo's tight control. Now pay close attention here. Sue asks about Min Jin, only to find out he is dead. Angry, he demands to know who was responsible. Sejun explains that Min Jin's body vanished, leaving 0 clues. Honestly, the only ones powerful enough to assassinate a high-tier hunter are other hunters or rogue, unregistered awakened elites. Even the HMCS came up empty. When a confused Sue asks what that even is, Sejun whips out his laptop, explaining it is a highly specialized task force investigating crimes against hunters. Since they have the power to arrest awakened criminals, our hero asks if his brother has any pull inside this agency. Sejun admits he does, but begs his brother to stay out of trouble and just use their guild's intel team instead. After a pause, Sue coldly replies that simple information is not all he is after. Extremely worried, Sejun warns him that the agency handles ruthless, heavy-hitting criminals and it is far too dangerous for him to rush in there. Unfazed, Sue reminds him that he spent 100 years battling in a brutal fantasy world, seeing and doing things beyond imagination. Gulping, the Empire Guild leader realizes he forgot his brother's terrifying reputation. He promises to contact Yi Ji from the Frozen Soul Guild to set up a meeting, secretly wondering what kind of monster his brother became. Suddenly, Sue points at the screen, recognizing a very familiar face. Peering closer, Sejun identifies him as team leader Jong-gu from the Gangbuk district, asking how on earth his brother knows him. 2 days later at the HMCS headquarters, the older chief is shouting about rookie second-generation hunters. A young officer asks what is wrong, and the team leader grumbles that they just assigned a newbie to his squad. The young guy stays quiet while the veteran complains about how soft kids are today. For the 10th time, he starts bragging about how he took a deadly blow back in his rookie days, right when their entire squad was about to get wiped out. You and I both know exactly who that savior was and right on cue. Sue kicks the door wide open, absolutely terrifying both officers in the room. Sue asks why he changed his name to confuse everyone. Without waiting, he asks if the veteran remembers the savior who spared his life all those years ago, leaving the old man utterly paralyzed in shock. A bit later, we see the veteran team leader introducing our mysterious hero to the rest of the squad. He barks strict orders that this newcomer must be treated with supreme respect and given any top-secret information he requests immediately. A green-haired girl mutters how completely bizarre it is to see their boss acting so submissive, but her teammate quickly tells her to shut up. Suddenly, the team leader barks out his summons for Kim Seon, who jumps out of her skin. The boss then demands that she personally show the new recruit around. While the junior members whisper and wonder if this mysterious guy is some secret 3-star hunter, inside the office, Jong-gu politely offers Sue a cup of coffee, which he accepts. Shaking with nerves, Kim, the squad's data analyst, asks what kind of files the rookie is looking for. Our hero gets straight to the point, demanding to see the classified records of every single hunter killed over the past 20 years. Kim stammers that sorting through 2 decades of archives is impossible, but the team leader instantly shuts her down, telling her to stop whining and get to work right now. Forced to comply, the analyst asks if he only wants human cases. Sipping his coffee, our hero clarifies he wants every confirmed murder case by the HMCS, especially any records on active hunter killers. Analyzing the situation, he knows taking down an awakened is impossible unless the killer is equally matched. Since Minjin was high tier, his assassin had to be an elite, cold-blooded professional. Kim asks where to deliver the massive file, and he tells her to send it directly to his phone. Suddenly, an agent bursts in with urgent news for Jonggu. A brutal turf war has erupted between local gangs armed with awakened members. Since the local police are begging for backup, the veteran chief grumbles about why they cannot handle a few low-tier awakened thugs. But the young officer explains that Cerberus is leading the charge. Intrigued, Sue asks who they are, and Kim warns him they are a highly dangerous rogue group accused of massive hunter trafficking. Intrigued, our hero asks Jonggu, whom he used to call Byung-gu, to tag along. Slipping on his coat, the old-timer chuckles, saying if the kid prefers his old name, then Byung-gu it is. But he insists the kid needs basic training first since he is officially still a rookie. Meanwhile, over at the turf war, a gangster scoffs that the Bloodless Reaper's captain is pathetic. The speaker is Kang Ho, the ruthless vice leader of Cerberus, and his sidekick completely agrees with him. Jakin, their third in command, complains that they are being highly unfair since his giant cleaver did all the heavy lifting today. Laughing, the vice leader tells him that if he wants respect, he should try defeating him first, which Jakin swears to do. Kang boasts it is lucky he retired as a hunter, or else everyone would be dead. He declares this turf now belongs to Cerberus, but his speech is cut short by a massive, fiery explosion. Coughing on the ground, Jakin screams, wondering if any survivor from the defeated gang is still breathing. Meanwhile, wearing his new hunter uniform, Sue calmly tries to remember the name of his target. Furious, the red-haired gangster asks if this intruder has a death wish, but Sue ignores him completely. Stepping forward, our hero notes that based on their cocky talk, these thugs must have killed hunters before. The bleeding gangsters mutter they have never seen this kid in gang buck, and trust me, you and I are about to watch him obliterate them. Shaking, the vice leader barks that if this rookie wants a show, they should give him one. He triggers his heavy armor skill and orders his entire crew to charge. All right, you and I are jumping right into a wild vision where Kang stands by a mysterious river. Peering across, he spots his late grandfather, wondering if he is being welcomed or told to turn back. But it is all a mind trick, and the Cerberus leader is actually pinned to the dirt. A brutal grip yanks his hair, forcing him awake. Crouching low, Sue tells him he is the sole survivor, then offers him to his parasite, free, to feed. Thrilled, the parasite can't wait to devour that juicy ability. Bloodied and broken, Kang gasps out, demanding to know why Sue is here, desperately claiming they have never actually taken a hunter's life. With a cold smirk, our hero says he knows trash like them are too weak to pull off a murder. So why did he do it? Simple, he wanted to test the strength of modern awakened criminals and put an end to them. Just then, Django arrives, admitting he was deeply worried when Sue insisted on coming alone, though it is clear now those worries were completely pointless. The protagonist explains he knew they needed at least one leader alive, so he spared Kang and eliminated the rest. Django agrees that while capture was the goal, self-defense is totally fine, which is exactly why they wear body cams. But secretly, the team leader wonders if this massacre was really necessary. Sue casually lyingly claims he just forgot the camera was even running. He then asks Django to cover for him. Left with no real choice, the leader sighs and agrees. Walking away, Sue casually drops a reminder that they actually struck him first anyway. Playing along, Django claims he believes him, but neither realizes that one gangster managed to slip away undetected. Shaking with fear, the survivor scrambles to make an emergency call, detailing the entire disaster. Now pay attention to this guy. Hearing that Jakin is dead, G, a powerful A-rank hunter from Hong Kong's Red Guild, demands the caller repeat that shocking news. Soon after, he touches down at the airport with his henchmen, tracking the target's location. Jun Yang from the Korean Association offers condolences for Jakin's death, but Ji immediately demands to know where his brother is. The glasses-wearing official explains he is at the forensics lab, and Ji can check into his hotel once identification is complete. Grinning, the red-haired hunter calls it highly suspicious, pointing out rumors that his brother's killer belongs to Amos's. The tight-lipped officer simply replies that he cannot comment on any active investigation. Annoyed, the A-rank hunter asks if he can leave their facility after hours. Junyong firmly says absolutely not, warning him of immediate deportation and severe legal penalties if he disobeys. Fuming as the official walks away, Ji complains bitterly about the attitude before calling out to Ryu. He orders the B-plus rank hunter to immediately hunt down the culprits, silently swearing to rip out the heart of whoever took his brother's life. Switching back to Sue, he asks Sigan if the victim's personal belongings were completely looted from the scene. Confirming this, Sigan explains that investigators thoroughly searched Minjun's apartment post-murder, desperate to locate any lingering mana traces left by the killer. But our clever protagonist questions if it was simply a robbery gone wrong, pointing out that the stolen items were mostly high-value goods, and the messy state of the place heavily increases the odds of sloppy evidence being left behind. Because if their actual goal was to erase magic traces, simply burning the entire house to ashes would have been far more effective. Sigan asks if Sue is suggesting some random thief just looted the place right after the poor kid was murdered. Confirming his theory, Sue realizes they will have to dismantle some local street gangs to find clues. Sigan sighs, calling the search impossible, but our hero smiles, saying they will never know unless they try. Cut to a week later, and Sue is questioning his own overconfidence. Why on earth are there so many petty thieves packed into one tiny country? 7 days of hunting, and he has found absolutely zero clues. Free offers to navigate and tells him to turn right, but Sue runs directly into a dead end, leaving him absolutely furious. Suddenly, voices catch his attention. Creeping closer, he overhears a thug complaining about the aggressive global crackdowns by AMCS, who hold ultimate investigative power over hunters everywhere. His older partner scoffingly replies that those agents are just government dogs, so they should simply eliminate anyone standing in their way, especially since any capable hunter would choose a guild anyway. Worried about their operation, his brown-haired partner suggests they relocate their stolen goods warehouse soon. Suddenly, our hero appears. And trust me, I know what you're thinking, time for some payback. He coolly declares their warehouse officially confiscated as a buck-toothed thug recognizes him. While a mustached thug panics and calls for backup, Sue sighs that he is busy, warning them to hand over the warehouse location unless they want an early grave. Backup arrives instantly, demanding to know what is going on. The furious, chubby boss sneers that this kid has no idea who he is messing with, claiming they can easily concrete his feet and toss him into the ocean. Hands still casually tucked in his pockets, Sue chuckles, thanking them for being so incredibly thoughtful by gathering in one convenient place just to help him out. He tells Free to activate his ability, but the picky parasite demands some fried chicken in return. Smirking, Sue agrees to the deal, and a blinding light erupts from his body, unleashing a devastating shockwave technique that completely blasts the criminals. The massive explosion sweeps the entire alleyway clean, scattering the thugs. Walking over the rubble, Sue calmly asks if they are finally ready to talk. Crying in sheer terror, the beaten leader asks who the hell he is. Grinning like an absolute madman, Sue replies he is just a lunatic. Hours later, inside the secret warehouse, Free smugly brags that they only found it thanks to his navigation. Sue retorts that the parasite just got lucky as he picks up the prize he was hunting for. It is Minjun's research journal, secured tightly by a high-grade magical lock that requires the deceased owner's exact mana to open. Free asks how he plans to decode the journal, but our hero reveals he is only after the residual mana left on its pages. Pulling out his phone, he calls Byungu, reporting that he has a dozen tied-up awakened criminals waiting for pickup. He tells him to bring a car, since they still have one very important place left to visit. Turns out, there is a dangerous neutral combat zone where black market skills and bizarre powers are traded. This lawless underground market is famously known to the underworld as Black Skyfall. Deep inside, a mysterious woman sits before a spread of tarot cards. Flipping one over, she smirks, noting that a very interesting guest is currently heading her way. Strolling through the streets, Sue remarks that nothing has really changed in 10 years. Free notes that he seems incredibly famous since everyone is staring at him, eagerly asking if they can stop for food. Declining, the hero reminds him this is a dangerous neutral zone. Suddenly, a voice greets him, noting it has been ages. It is Ma Myong, a powerful shaman and one of the 12 rulers of Black Skyfall. Smiling, she admits she was expecting his arrival. Once inside, she notes he has not aged a single day in 10 years, and he playfully returns the compliment. The shaman asks where he has been hiding for the past 10 years without sending a single message. Sliding Minjun's journal across, Sue says it is a long story and asks if she can extract the lingering mana from it. Munum giggles, calling him as impatient and direct as ever, before agreeing to help. Grabbing a sharp knife from the table, Sue slices his own palm without hesitating. You see, mana is channeled through skills, and reverting it back to raw energy is almost impossible. It is basically like cooking curry. While you can pick out the potatoes and carrots, you can never undissolve the curry powder from the water. Yet, this shaman can achieve this feat using her unique mana hacker skill, a highly illegal technique that completely breaks the laws of nature and causality. This is exactly why abilities like hers are heavily tied to underground crimes, making society treat her with constant suspicion. Smiling, Numong says it is done. teasing that Sue's blood tastes like strawberry juice, leaving Free horrified. Grabbing her wrist, Sue says that drink is on the house, and trust me, you and I can't miss what's coming next. Alright, you and I are about to see our main character's next move. As the mysterious shaman watches him leave, she cannot help but wonder what secrets this strange guy is hiding. In the car, the parasite complains about never wanting to return there, but our protagonist tells him to stop being so picky. Frey calls them both total degenerates, but Sue just smiles and prepares for their next stop, the Institute of Ancient History Research. Arriving at the destination, he quietly notes this is where Minjun was brutally murdered. The parasite warns him about trespassing, but Sue explains the building belongs to the Empire Guild. It was bought and preserved by Sigyn, who still cannot accept the young man's sudden death. Placing his hand on the dusty table, our protagonist prepares to extract the memories of that tragic day. Frey anxiously asks if he is really going to use that power. Sue activates his mana remembrance skill to experience the lingering emotions left in this room. Suddenly, a vision of Minjun with a mysterious hooded figure appears, though the parasite complains that the memory is way too blurry. Sue explains that is just how the skill works since they can only trace raw emotions. He realizes Minjun was a strong hunter, meaning whoever took him down had to be incredibly skilled. Staring at the ghostly image, Sue tries to piece together the tragedy. Could this be the work of some dark order? Suddenly, the memory shifts as the killer demands Minjun speak up. Sue wonders if his disciple was involved with a secret organization, while Frey asks if he is holding up okay. Ever since they left the demon realm, Sue kept talking about his old disciples and searched for them immediately upon returning to Earth. Now, he has to watch one of them die right before his eyes. Sue jokingly asks where the parasite learned such dramatic words, but Frey warns that he can feel Sue's rage boiling up to the point of nausea. Sue simply replies that after 100 years, anyone would eventually snap. Out of nowhere, a hunter named Yampang interrupts, asking if he is Sue. He complains that the boy's wandering made things difficult, especially since someone is desperate to see him. Our boy crosses his arms, amused that 6 little rats are looking for him. The arrogant hunter narrows his eyes and gives Sue 2 very simple choices. Now pay attention, because he takes the peaceful option to be tied up rather than fight. But you and I both know our boy never plays by the rules. A lackey steps forward to tie him up, but Sue delivers a single, lethal strike before the guy can even react. With a smirk, Sue says he actually prefers the violent option. The furious Red Guild hunter threatens to rip him apart, but a man named Jay stops him. With pure hatred in his eyes, Jay claims this prey for himself. Sue just smiles, enjoying the drama. The guild leader asks if the protagonist is alone and if he was the one who ended his brother, Jakin. Scratching his neck, our boy says he is not quite sure. After all, he does not usually ask for Trash's name before sweeping it away. This completely breaks the red-haired leader's patience, and he charges forward, swearing to make the boy regret living. Jay lunges with a heavy strike, but Sue easily blocks it, noting he is an A-rank hunter. Jay realizes this kid is a healer and attacks again, calling him arrogant. Seeing their leader blocked, the other hunters try to jump in, but our protagonist suddenly teleports right in front of them and says he cannot let them interfere. Using his lightning magic, he instantly fries the grunts and laughs that things are finally getting fun. The survivors panic, wondering who this monster is, while Jay desperately tries to analyze his insane speed. None of the speed-type hunters Jay met before had this level of precision. Realizing the danger, he decides he must go all out immediately. Grabbing a guild member by the throat, Sue calmly states that if someone's family commits a crime, they must face judgment. Yet these hypocrites still act like they are the victims. An enraged Jay screams, asking if all criminals deserve to die. He claims his brother only turned to crime to keep them fed, so he will happily take the blame and end Sue right now. The hunter unleashes his deadly wolf fang attack. Sue calmly realizes he cannot dodge this massive strike normally, so he tells Frey to quickly activate a counter skill. The parasite whines that he is exhausted, but Sue demands it one last time. Frey agrees, and Sue immediately uses Neutralize to completely erase his opponent's attributes. Look at their faces. Absolute shock. They cannot believe he just shut down an A-rank hunter's skill, and honestly, we are just as stunned as they are. As he prepares to strike back, Sue asks the leader what would happen if every struggling person turned to crime, calling the man's logic completely outdated. The impact sends Jay flying, but he barely manages to stand. The other members panic, but the proud leader barks at them to stay back. He charges again, planning to win through raw hand-to-hand combat before the kid runs out of mana. But Sue leaps forward, grabs Jay by his hair, and tells him to stop dreaming. Sue ruthlessly punches the hunter's vital spots, asking who will pay if this building collapses. But the stubborn leader ignores him, desperately continuing his reckless assault. Su is pushed back, and Jae orders Ryu to bind him. Activating his chain skill, the teammate complains that his boss keeps changing his mind about wanting help. Glowing chains wrap around our protagonist. Jae roars in fury, promising to blast Su so hard that no healing magic can save him. Shredding the chains, our boy mockingly congratulates Jae for following his dead brother's path. He unleashes Life Drain, absorbing the guild leader's life force until he looks like a walking corpse. Shaking in pure terror, Yampang asks how a healer could possibly use such a terrifying ability. Su scoffingly replies that he was never a normal, run-of-the-mill healer anyway. Instead of using mana to heal others, he controls his own life energy through a rare technique called Life Spirit Sorcery. Stepping toward the braided hunter, Su says his turn is next. Terrified, Yampang instantly surrenders. Our boy tells him to shut up, and a few moments later, wonders if the trash has been cleared. He then remembers the body camera clipped to his belt. Looking at the device, he asks Bangu if everything was recorded, confident that this entire fight was just legitimate self-defense. Watching the footage in absolute shock, the team leader says the video looks perfect. The only slight problem? The boy accidentally pressed live stream instead of record. Elsewhere, officials complain that the situation is now a massive headache for the government. Since when does the organization broadcast the annihilation of criminals live? A staff member explains that the live feature existed for 2 years to promote the agency. However, it was abandoned because they could never produce high-quality footage. The higher-ups wonder why such an elite talent would join their ranks. But a woman points out the real issue is that the victim was a guest hunter from the powerful Red Guild. Suddenly, the president of Korea, Choi Do, enters the room, apologizing for the delay. He immediately asks everyone what the emergency is. A few days later, back in the guild cafeteria, Seyun tries to lecture our protagonist about the incident. He asks if Su is even paying attention, but our boy is completely focused on his food. He just wants free food. And while they chat, that accidental stream is breaking the internet. Trust me, you and I are definitely going to want to see what happens next. Alright, you and I are diving right back in. Sai says they got lucky since the low-quality body cam hid Su's face. But if Dao finds out he's back, total chaos. Our boy needs to stay low-key. Despite his complaining, Su agrees to play along, as long as they can finally stop talking and eat. Once fed, the glasses-wearing youth claims he is no longer a kid, but Su just calls him a brat. Soon, other hunters approach them, including the girl from the tower. Stajun introduces Shinji Su to his brother, mentioning her recent entry into the Empire Guild, and asks if they're all here for the rookie seminar. With a smile, Su confirms this, introducing Chu Hammond from the White Lion Guild and Yamato from the Frozen Soul Guild. Yamato turns to Su, saying he has been waiting to introduce himself. He adds that he is really looking forward to working with our protagonist, and with a grin, Su politely says the feeling is mutual. Butting into the chat, Shu asks if this is the troublemaking rookie. He saw the video of him killing Gert, who was his rival, but doubts this scrawny kid is the same guy. Seek and Shin are stunned by the guy's sheer audacity, while Sejun nervously points out how incredibly rude he's being to someone he just met. Mocking them, the guy claims he just asked a question, calling the Empire Guild way too uptight. Snapping back, the glasses-wearing youth says the White Lion Guild should be ashamed of him and wonders what Sunil would think. Shu scoffs, bragging that as a direct disciple of Xiaolong, the leader of the Blackwater Lotus would never be scared of empty threats like that. Now watch closely. Su quietly eats while listening to this guy talk trash about one of his own disciples. But when things get ugly, he decides to step in. He challenges the guy, saying if he wants to test if he's the killer from the video, he should go ahead. He is dying to see his master's training. Furious, Shu can't believe this kid dares to speak Xiaolong's name. But since they're at headquarters, he just kicks a chair, walks away, and warns Su to watch his back at night. Sik apologizes for the mess, but Seyun tells him it's fine and to get lost. He then turns to our boy, promising he'll handle the situation later. Sumu says it's no big deal since the kid is basically his disciple's disciple. Meanwhile, in another room, someone tells Sunil the matter is settled. Sipping his tea, the man notes they could have resolved this with simple paperwork, but receiving a personal visit is a true honor. The White Lion Guild leader explains he wanted to personally apologize for his members' disrespect toward an HMCS rookie. Smiling, HMCS Director John Ho says there is no need for someone of his high status to apologize, knowing he's just trying to assess things. Besides, the person he wants to see is currently busy at the prison, selecting awakened criminals for a task. Feigning disappointment, the White Lion leader calls it a shame and asks if such requests are rare. The director admits it's uncommon, but not unheard of. Usually, only massive guilds handle these kinds of requests, but times are changing. Standing up, Sunil asks if he would at least allow Chu to apologize to the boy in person later on. John agrees, noting the issue is strictly between those two, and wishes him a safe trip. Leaving, the White Lion Guild leader resolves not to give up on someone of that high caliber. He turns to his secretary, instructing her to tell Hunter Chu to prepare for a trip. She nods obediently, asking where she should send him. Over at Inseam Prison, a guard wonders why the HMCS team is late. Another guard assures him they will be here soon, prompting a chubby guard to ask what the big deal is. He complains that inspection season is exhausting and wishes the inmates would just behave. Looking at Volk's file, he notes the beasts suddenly started a crazy rebellion out of nowhere. The younger guard points out that the criminal was a massive name in the underworld, making him incredibly difficult to capture. And yeah, you and I know a prison break is coming. Volk is heading to Genwin, and a literal talking rat tells him to cause chaos so the organization can spring him. Standing outside, Sumu wonders if this is truly Insen's awakened prison. Sometime later, a guard tells Chu that the protagonist has already departed. Annoyed, Chu grumbles about the prisoner transport leaving so quickly. He suddenly realizes the bus was right behind him, but he has already missed it. Jumping into his car, he realizes he has to drive all the way to Gang 1, hoping he gets paid over time. Inside the transport bus, Su calmly sips an iced coffee when Volk complains about not sharing. Our boy ignores him. Volk then asks if he is the warden of the prison they are heading to. Su bluntly says no. Volk remarks that Su must be incredibly confident in his skills to look so relaxed, but Su just turns and asks who he even is. Chuckling, the prisoner calls Su crazy and asks if he even knows why he is being transferred. Su asks if it is because he talks too much. Flashing his heavy cuffs, Volk reveals he turned 5 awakened criminals into literal meat paste. He says Su should be wondering why an A++ level criminal is being moved in a basic transport bus right next to an arrogant rookie. Finishing his warning, Volk tells Su he is screwed. Suddenly, a massive explosion blasts the transport bus high into the air. Outside, an old monk-like man and a boy wonder if Volk survived. Suddenly, Volk kicks the wrecked door open and steps out. Furious, Volk asks if they were trying to kill him too. Mocking him, the old man says if the gray wolf of Bestia dies from a tiny blast like that, he has truly become a lapdog. He then asks if the escort was dealt with. Volk replies that he kicked the hunter right in the temple during the blast, so yes, he did. Impatient, Volk tells the purple-haired boy to unlock his cuffs faster. The boy warns him to wait unless he wants to lose his hands. Moments later, the heavy chains snap, and Volk sighs with relief. The boy snaps back, noting it's only been a few months. Suddenly, Chu appears and orders them to freeze, saying he knew they'd take this dark, secluded road. He mocks Su, claiming he couldn't be special if he got taken down so easily. Preparing to fight, Chu demands to know which rogue organization they belong to. The purple-haired boy recognizes the hunter, wondering when he started tailing them. Seeing that Chu is completely alone, Volk gets absolutely thrilled. Annoyed, Chu tells them to quit whispering and identify themselves. Volk chuckles, asking why it matters when he's about to die anyway. In an instant, Volk transforms into his massive wolf form. Sweating, Chu knows he must defeat this beast to force him back to human form. He quickly unleashes his Asura Diamond Rage, coating his armor in glowing energy. They clash instantly. Blocking Chu's heavy strikes, Volk realizes that taking this kid on by himself actually would have been quite a challenge. Chu feels his attacks landing, but the beast is still standing, mocking him. Trust me, you and I need to see how this wild clash ends. Alright, you and I are diving right into a crazy fight where an old man orders a boy to wrap things up. Instantly, the kid summons a massive 10-headed viper, unleashing snakes to trap the running hunter, Chu. Unfortunately, Chu gets caught. Volk mocks him, saying the White Lion Guild is totally overrated. After taking a brutal punch, the hunter crashes hard to the dirt, while the criminal sneers that down here in the back alleys, he is just another loser. Looking up, the brown-haired hunter tells Volk he is talking way too big for someone who needs backup to win a simple one-on-one. The wolf hybrid kicks the hunter, telling him to shut up and wait for backup. Suddenly, the old man barks at Volk to end it. Ready for the killing blow, the villain asks if Chu has any final words, though he obviously does not care. The beaten hunter thinks there is no way his story ends like this. But just in time, a blinding yellow light explodes across the screen, forcing the villains to jump back to save themselves. Still bound, Chu gets caught in the blast. Su steps up and asks if Xia Long taught him to surrender so easily. Stunned, the hunter stares, wondering how on earth this guy is still breathing. Fiddling with a camera, our main character casually asks which button starts the recording. Volk freaks out, screaming that it is impossible because he personally crushed the kid's skull and left him for dead. The old man is just as shocked, realizing this kid has some seriously unnatural powers. Meanwhile, an annoyed Chu tells our protagonist to back off and wait for the rest of their squad. After listing all their crimes, including ruining his sacred coffee break, Su declares that under the authority of HMCS, these three villains are officially under arrest and are about to pay dearly for their actions, starting right now. With his back turned, Su tells Chu to just lay low and watch. After all, Asher is not a technique meant just for hitting. Rushing him, Volk screams, demanding to know what nonsense he is babbling about. But as he closes in, he eats a massive fist straight to the face. Sending the brute flying, our main character explains that this move is actually built for piercing, leaving the spectator completely speechless. The stunned hunter wonders how this random kid knows a secret technique created by Sion. Giving a weird explanation, Su says you have to drain the strawberry juice first to properly tenderize the meat. Suddenly, a massive explosion rocks the field. Pay attention to the monk, who just unleashed his legendary Maharaga skill. But guess what? Our main character effortlessly dodges it, calmly remarking that the old man's skills match his age. Frey asks if he can devour that power, but Su warns it would cost way too much. Still completely dazed, Shu desperately demands to know who this kid is and how he mastered his own teacher's technique. Suddenly, the monk fires up another deadly ability, warning our hero not to make a single move unless he wants to see his hunter buddy get crushed into paste. Grinning, Su asks if the old man was busy plotting behind his back while he was busy thrashing Volk. The monk claims it is not a threat, just a deal. If the kid lets the wolf go, he will free the hunter, and they can all leave quietly. Casually scratching his ear, our hero says he only took on this annoying mission because he is hunting for information. Besides, Chu is tough enough to survive a little beating. Confused, the old man asks what he means, pointing out they are not even allies. The protagonist coldly replies that the only actual partners here are the monk and Volk. Cutting straight to the chase, our boy reveals he knows they are rogue hunter-killers, likely working for a massive syndicate given the cursed tools they are carrying. Getting ready to strike, the bald monk asks why he came alone if he knew the danger. With a chilling gaze, Su says he came to extract their boss's identity, making the old man panic and yell for him to stay back. Completely unfazed, the protagonist unleashes a massive shockwave that instantly overloads the monk's curse artifact. Retreating, the old man realized this kind of insane mana density should be impossible for any normal human. Su notes that his power is already 40% restored, proving that a solid warm-up is doing wonders. Growing impatient, he tells the old man to stop stalling. He does not have much time left anyway. Stubbornly, the monk asks if he really thinks they will talk, since everyone in the syndicate signs a blood-sealed silence pact bound to their very mana. Volk finally wakes back up, and the worried old man asks if he has regained his strength yet. I know what you are thinking. This is getting dark. Grinning, our hero tells them not to fear death. They will get used to it after dying a few times. Terrified, the bald monk screams at Volk to do something. Furious, Volk charges forward, swearing to tear the kid apart even if it kills him. But suddenly, Chu blocks his path, declaring that he is not going anywhere. Wiping his bloodied mouth, the hunter grins, ready to fight on a level playing field. Volk growls that he should have stayed down, but Chu replies that the real fun is just starting. Su activates his legendary Thousand Winds technique, summoning roaring tornadoes of light that lift the villains off the ground as he grabs the old monk by the neck. Our boy asks him how it feels to stare death in the face. Unable to break free, the old man gasps for air, as Su asks how long before he finally starts answering. Drooling and choking, the old man gasps, asking what kind of monster he is. Su sighs, saying once is clearly not enough, while Chu watches in utter disbelief as our hero uses a broken healing spell to keep his target alive. With arms crossed, our boy asks for the third time who they work for. Completely broken, Volk begs the monk to just confess. He finally whispers the name Bestia, sparking instant excitement in our hero. Shivering, the bleeding monk realizes this kid's absurd power confirms he is actually one of the three legendary figures known as Mad Dog. Stepping closer, our protagonist says now that their mouths are working. It's time for a little chat because he needs to know who the snake-like member is. We discover there is an elite faction of hunter-killers led by a man named Crow. In this dark underworld, their influence is massive, controlling countless high-profile contracts. That is exactly why the monk, a first-generation hunter who spent years hiding in the shadows, had absolutely no reason to decline the syndicate's invitation. But for assassins inside this group, keeping the identity of other members secret is a golden rule. Loyalty to the mysterious head is their highest, unbreakable commandment. The bald man thinks that in all 15 years of service, he never dreamed he would betray his comrades. But after experiencing the horror of death multiple times, his mouth speaks on its own. He confesses that the person in the picture is a Bestia member named Black Mamba. Amused, our boy asks one last crucial question, demanding to know if they played a part in Minjan's assassination order. Volk silently bows his head in confirmation. Trembling all over, he thinks about how utterly terrifying this kid really is. The monk explains that even as members, they operate independently without knowing each other's details. However, there is a specific reason why he was sent to retrieve Volk in the first place. A major biannual assembly is happening in a single week, and the higher-ups want them there. But to save their own skins, they offer to leak the location and help him, begging to become his loyal subordinates. Shocked, Chu asks, "What on earth is going on?" calling our protagonist brother and begging him not to actually consider this crazy deal. Su quickly shuts him down, but the hunter insists that since he used Azura, he must be connected to Solomon. He begs Su to take him as a disciple instead of those two villains. Su tells him to pipe down, focusing only on getting information on Black Mamba. Still, if his plans leak to the organization through this duo, things could get incredibly messy. So, he decides to recruit the criminals, leaving Chu utterly speechless. They swear absolute loyalty, but trust me, you and I know our hero is about to drop one massive final condition. Alright, you and I are jumping back in where our main character demands a mana oath to prevent another betrayal. Volk is outraged, yelling that this contract is basically a dog collar that seals your mana core. The old man snaps at him to shut up. Unleashing his power, our hero orders them to gather mana in their cores and speak their names aloud. Left with no other choice, the pair obeys. Frey gets all excited because now they have two lackeys. Our boy promises them protection in exchange for loyalty. As long as they keep their oath, they live. Kneeling, both men show their submission. Throwing a dramatic tantrum, Shu threatens to report this whole mess to the association if the boy won't take him as a disciple. But one terrifying stare from those red eyes has the hunter quickly laughing it off. Tucking the contract away, our main character confirms if the meeting is in 1 week. He decides to accept Chu as a disciple since he needs extra hands for what's coming, making the hunter absolutely beam with joy. As they head out, Su figures the four of them can definitely cause some serious chaos, but he is still going to need one more person to clean up the aftermath. Back at the prison where Volk was kept, the director is absolutely furious. He screams that an escape like this is impossible and demands to know why Agent Kuss did not handle the situation. Thinking on his feet, Junggu scrambled to invent a solid lie. The director then demands to know why the transport officer never showed up. Our hero's contact explains that a normal transport team uses 4 to 5 guards, but Volk needed at least 10. Yet the director only requested 1, ignoring the driver. Furious, the chubby boss barks about what that has to do with the escape. Junggu reveals that the new transport officer heard a confession from Volk about having corrupt, high-ranking officers under his thumb. Even if a criminal's words are hard to believe, this mess needs a deep investigation. Therefore, the agency will launch a full operation targeting both the escaped prisoner and this very facility. A bit later, our hero's ally walks in to report that the transport cleanup is finished, just as Su requested, and the official investigation into the bribery has officially begun. We see that our main character is flanked by Chu, the legendary old red ghost, and the escaped prisoner. Freaking out, the brown-haired man asks why on earth a convict is here, but Su shuts him down because they need to map out the strategy immediately. Now, pay attention here, because this is where the plan gets crazy. Our main character wants to infiltrate a meeting of the Bestia organization with 8 elite assassins using just this tiny squad. Junggu is absolutely losing his mind, asking what the actual goal of this suicide mission is. With a smirk, our boy delivers a chilling answer: complete extermination. Fast forward to the meeting day, where one of the villainous members asks what happened to their strict attendance policy. Annoyed, the long-haired girl snaps that Volk and the Red Ghost are completely missing. But the guy shrugs it off, saying he never counted on those two losers anyway. A young redhead scoffs that those two do not have the guts to betray them. Flipping her hair, the girl with bangs curses Volk for breaking his promise to escape to Earth X with her. Suddenly, a scarred thug barks at everyone to shut their mouths, reminding them that dealing with traitors is strictly up to their big boss. Grinning, the master of the syndicate claims she is loving the drama but is genuinely shocked by the disappearances. She playfully asks if they should just have a bloody, free-for-all fight to decide who gets to hunt down the runaways. The room goes dead silent until a member bluntly tells the boss to stop joking since her humor is trash. Black Mamba chimes in, saying they can just schedule the executions later. But the real issue is that the traitors know the exact location and schedule. A hooded figure scoffs, asking if anyone seriously believes those two nobodies pose any threat. Suddenly, an automated warning announces that unknown movement is detected on routes 1 through 5. Smirking, The boss remarks about speaking of the devil as the syndicate prepares to deploy, groaning about the annoying distraction. Sipping his tea, Black Mamba says to end this quickly so they can start. The redhead asks if he and the girl plan to help. Both refuse, claiming they despise dealing with weaklings. Inside the air vents, Junggu watches closely as the leader mutters that they should bring back the intruders' heads for identification. He mutters that he has never even won a lottery ticket, wondering why his luck is suddenly peaking. Rewinding to 30 minutes ago, Sue's team arrives at the enemy headquarters. Red Ghost points out that there are 5 secure entrances, each rigged with alarms. They are the only points of entry, and every single corridor feeds right into the main hall. After pondering, our main character realizes they must station one fighter at each exit to block their escape routes. Spinning around, he asks Junggu if he brought the radios along. Junggu nods quickly. Our hero orders everyone to split up, warning them to call for backup on the radio if they hit a wall, especially if they encounter Black Mamba. Sneaking inside, the squad leader feels things are going well, but his path back gets completely sealed off, forcing him to crawl up into the nearest ventilation shaft. I know what you're thinking, what a lucky guy. Right. But standing right above the main hall, packed with high-level killers, he sweats buckets, realizing his team is likely out there fighting for their lives. So instead of waiting, he decides to initiate the fight himself. Down below, one of the gang members spots a strange little sphere on the floor and goes to inspect it, but his curiosity triggers a massive, fiery explosion. Without even standing up, Crow notes the girl is dead, while Black Mamba realizes a little rat has infiltrated their base. Suddenly, a live grenade drops straight from the ceiling, but Black Mamba effortlessly swats it away, saying he hates hide and seek, right before the blast knocks Junggu loose from the vents. Junggu attempts an aerial strike to defend himself as he falls. The assassin blocks, instantly identifying his opponent as an official agency hunter. Landing hard, the squad leader laments that he only took out one target, eyeing the mysterious hooded figure still lounging. Resting his head on his hand, Black Mamba wonders if the defectors really sent this weakling. Sweating, Junggu asks what if they did. The monster replies he is impressed they chose to ally with such pathetic losers. Infuriated, the squad leader strikes back, sending a flurry of throwing knives flying forward. Quietly sipping her tea, Crow admits the strike was actually decent. Feeling a fresh cut on his cheek, Black Mamba remembers the hunter possesses telekinetic powers. Junggu grows deeply concerned about how insanely tough this monster's skin is. Lunging forward, Black Mamba calls this a decent warm-up before violently throwing the leader against the concrete wall. The assassin sneers that he did not want to bruise his hands on fragile organs, asking Crow if he can just execute him now. Fumbling for his radio, the beaten leader tries to warn the others, but Black Mamba crushes him with a heavy boot, mocking that his backup seems to be running late. Calling out the names of the traitors, the killer asks, who is next? But right on cue, the entire squad arrives, catching the cocky monster completely off guard from behind. Boom! A massive explosion blasts the killer backward. Recovering midair, the monster admits he is surprised the squad defeated his elite members fast enough to reach the main hall. And trust me, we are in for an insane showdown now. Mamba notes Crow must be disappointed in her weak subordinates, but realizes something is off. The fresh wounds on the heroes prove Tiger and Grizzly fought hard before dying. Black Mamba unleashes a shockwave of flying debris. Charging straight through the dust, Shu snaps that the assassin talks way too much. Let's dive right into this crazy battle as Mumbai hurls a hunter aside, demanding to know why a White Lion Guild member is here if he is not part of HMCS. Shu crashes heavily into Junggu and quickly apologizes. Meanwhile, the Fanged Beast mocks them, saying their terrible coordination makes it obvious they only met yesterday and are not a real organization at all. Elsewhere, Wolverine asks who Sue is. Keeping his back turned, our main character coolly replies that he is the one who brought everyone together. A shocked Junggu asks how Chu got here so fast, and he explains he ran the moment he got the call. Since Sue is handling the other enemies alone, they just need to trap the target inside until he arrives. Leaping into the attack, Volk sneers, asking if they really think they can hold off an awakened A-rank hunter with such half-hearted efforts. Ghost replies that he has not even used his ability yet, but admits something feels off. He figures the group must have set a trap since Crow is just standing there, calmly watching. And because her power is completely impossible to read, predicting their next move is out of the question. Brandishing his staff, the old man declares he will handle the leader, while the others take care of Black. Under heavy assault, Mambai growls, asking if anyone is actually going to answer his questions. Giving him silent treatment, Ghost warns that nobody leaves this room until their master arrives. He activates his binding information ability, summoning glowing chains that wrap tightly around the hooded figures, Without even bothering to stand, Crow asks if they are actually serious. Laughing, the old man replies that not even a high-ranking hunter like her can escape his chains that easily. The leader of Bestia muses that their boss must be incredibly powerful to give them this much confidence. Focused entirely on Crow, Ghost completely misses that Hedgehog has woken up and stood back up. As the chaos erupts, Volk and Jungu rush toward the bald man. Meanwhile, the chains holding Black fade away as he mutters that this is a total waste of time since reinforcements could arrive at any moment. So, he decides to eliminate Chu as fast as possible. While speaking, Manbai activates his powerful draconian ability. Jang Hu offers to cover his back, but Manbai tells his injured ally to just stay put. Suddenly, Black swings his massive tail, forcing everyone to dive for cover. Analyzing the strike, Chu realizes the creature's mana density is off the charts. It looks like they are trapped in this room, meaning his only option is to buy some time, especially since the other members are locked in their own battles and cannot support him. Watch closely here, because just as Black prepares to deliver a deadly punch, a knife thrown by Jangu strikes his arm and forces him back. The attack completely enrages the beast, who lets out a deafening roar that sends stones falling from the ceiling. Shook gets distracted, warning his leader, and takes a direct hit, flying backward. Appearing behind Bamboo, Black sneers that hunters living in the light are deluded, because rank, mana capacity, and sheer numbers do not guarantee victory in a real fight. He asks if they honestly believe this place was unprepared. Vogue takes a direct hit as Manbai reveals the entire hall has a self-destruction mechanism. Once you enter the snake's den, there is no way out alive. So, the brown-haired man needs to stop struggling and die quietly. Grabbing Zhongvu by the throat, Black prepares to deliver the final, lethal blow. But another sudden explosion blasts him backward. Charging in, Su decides to show them how it is done, landing a heavy punch directly on the beast's neck. With a dark expression, our protagonist says he finally found his target. Letting Volk go, Hedgehog charges forward, demanding to know who this kid is. Without a word, our hero blasts her with a powerful shockwave. Observing the chaos, Crow asks if the boy reverse-engineered the magic circles in the room. Frey shouts back that it was only possible because of his help, calling them too slow. Getting back on his feet, the team leader remarks on how impressively he shredded the entire facility like paper. Preparing to break free, Black admits the boy's entrance startled him, but now he finally understands. This kid wiped out his organization and planned the entire operation. Clutching his head, Sumu replies that the one truly responsible is the Snake Man. Surprised, Crow asks what kind of trouble Manbai got into to be hunted like this. He claims ignorance, saying he only follows orders, but admits he is starting to realize this is all about revenge. I know what you were thinking, but Black boasts that he never leaves a trace of his kills. Activating his aura, our protagonist coldly promises that his revenge is finally at hand. But first, there is information he must extract. As flames begin to surround the beast, Crow tries to step in. But Ghost stops her, warning her to pay close attention to what this legend is about to say. Raising her hands, the leader of Bestia claims she has no intention of interfering, then asks what made the old man so loyal to this kid and who he actually is. Struggling to defend himself, Manbai realizes their buffing magic circles were turned into traps, leaving him wondering if Su has a tracking ability and why on earth he is so fast and powerful. Our hero builds momentum and smashes the beast into the wall, sending him crashing down to the floor while coughing up mouthfuls of blood. Black laughs, admitting he has never met anyone like this young man. He claims to know almost every elite hunter, yet he is dying to know who this kid is and what drives him to go this far, blocking the next attack effortlessly. Su plants his foot on Manbai's back, telling him he has got it all wrong. He is the one asking questions here. Grinding his heel into the snake's head, our protagonist warns that a single wrong move will end his life, so he had better shut up. A battered Black surrenders, prompting our hero to grab his face and demand he speak louder. He demands to know who ordered Minjin's assassination. Internally, Manbai is shocked to realize all this trouble is over a mere historian, but he smiles, saying he finally understands. Our protagonist orders him to confess if he wants to survive. Grabbing Su's hand, the beast agrees, but asks how he plans to listen to the truth if his ears are about to be melted off. The creature seizes the moment to spit deadly venom straight from its mouth, sneering that the absolute first rule of an assassin is to never reveal their client's identity. Coughing, our hero asks how he dared spit in his face, but instantly heals himself and vows to make him talk. Wide-eyed, Black panics, wondering why on earth he is fighting a healer. Desperate, he begs Crow for help, but she raises her hands, pointing out she is surrounded. Stammering, Black promises to tell all, quickly blurting out that the client is P&D, Before he can finish, he suddenly explodes, though Sue already knows he meant pandemonium. Suddenly, the leader of Bestia's eyes glow crimson, and she instantly takes down all the nearby team members. Pulling back her hood, she reveals she knows his true identity. He is none other than Mad Dogi Men Siwoo, a first-generation hunter who vanished 10 years ago. Glaring at her with an intense look, our hero asks if she is allied with Pandemonium. Crow denies it, explaining her group is strictly an assassin guild that never gets involved in personal contracts. She reveals she recognized him because her sister once mentioned a legendary hunter with a bizarre healing ability. Sue demands to know if she is telling the truth or just lying to his face. Hovering in the air, she insists she is telling the truth, urging him to believe her. Ordering Hedgehog to stand, the leader notes how strange it is that she completely forgot Sue even existed. Unleashing her power, she triggers a massive explosion that blasts a hole right through the ceiling. Escaping with her ally, Crow tauntingly asks if Sue plans to pursue them. Staring up, our boy declines because he has what he needs. Crow promises they will meet again, and as Sue asks why he let them go, he admits it was that or getting buried. And that is where we leave things for now, trust me. This story is only getting crazier. Alright, you and I are about to jump into one crazy manhwa. Their mission is done, leaving Junggu to clean up the mess. Staring at Black's corpse, he wonders what massive secret Minjin uncovered to get killed. Days later, Sue cannot get the name Pandemonium out of his head. Digging deeper, he remembers that 20 years ago, the very first gate ruptured Earth, spilling chaos across our world, bringing monsters, magic crystals, and demons an otherworldly race naturally gifted at controlling mana, possessing dangerous skills just like awakened humans. When that first portal tore open, these monsters exploited the absolute panic to invade Earth. They conquered the gates, treated humans like trash, and built their demon fortress right in the heart of our continent. That was when a group of human traders actually knelt and swore loyalty to King Pandemonium. But their rule was short. The original generation of hunters fought back. When a brutal war of survival erupted between mankind and the demonic horde, the humans actually won. Right in the middle of that bloody war, Sue got sucked into the rift. He recalls that Pandemonium was already crushed before the final battle even finished. Yet now, his legendary name is popping up again. Sue calls up Free, who answers instantly. He asks his companion if demons existed in the previous world too, just wearing a different face. The parasite agrees, explaining that out of all species, demons are scattered across every single dimension. Sue notes that even in that other world, those monsters ruled and enslaved everyone else. He wonders if they are always this evil. Free is not sure, since before meeting Sue, his memories were wiped, leaving only a burning sensation that the demons stole something precious from him. But after fighting them for 100 years, he knows for a fact they are complete scumbags capable of any atrocity. Feeling frustrated, Sue admits that 10 years ago, he only cared about slaughtering demons, not studying them. All he knows is their mana signature differs from humans, though they are terrifyingly good at mimicking us. Free asks why they do not just wipe them out to end it. But trust me, as Sue explains, things are never that simple. Sejin walks in, asking his brother what kind of massive trouble forced him to rent an office so suddenly. Sue replies that he is just looking for the truth behind what happened to Minjin. But the bespectacled brother reveals that Huang let slip how Sue annihilated an entire syndicate of assassins. Now, he demands to know exactly who is hiding inside. Despite wanting to keep things quiet, a pouting Sue complains that Junggu has a massive mouth. He tells Sejun not to worry, planning to confront the president directly soon. There are still too many secrets, and meeting the man face-to-face might stop him from making any reckless moves. Deeply concerned, his brother points out that Sue has not even fully recovered yet. Even so, he will not force him to stop, despite the looming danger. Sue playfully puts Sejun in a headlock, laughing that he worries way too much, just like their dad. Breaking free, Sejun reminds him of his promise. In exchange for renting this office, Sue has to train the guild's new recruits, especially since Hunter Shin's powers are far more complex than expected. An experienced eye needs to evaluate her. Scratching his ear, our main character agrees, but insists they grab some food first. Sejun asks if his brother is a literal black hole, since he literally just ate. Free pipes up, demanding chicken, which makes Sue realize his parasite is the real reason his stomach is always empty. Junggu calls, asking if Sue truly wants to stay anonymous. Annoyed, the main character warns him to watch his mouth, since he already spilled everything to Sejun. The leader argues that Sue has no idea how massive this situation is. News outlets are begging for details, completely overwhelming the staff with a relentless flood of phone calls. Junggu adds that the director is breathing down their necks ever since the last incident because Sue kept his name hidden. Sue asks if that means they got results, leaving the desperate leader speechless. Sue suggests blaming the victory on the White Lion Guild, but Junggu has already reached out to them. Besides, given the recent prison break, he begs the young man to change his mind. Sue says he is eating and hangs up. As we watch him leave, you can tell he is just exhausted by this endless cycle of chaos. Sejun asks if that was team leader Junggu. Nodding, the main character jokes that the man simply loves his job a bit too much. He then asks about the latest demon news. His brother explains that since the 4 demon lords vanished years ago, the monsters proposed a peace treaty, establishing a research center on the frozen continent to study Earth's leaking mana, behaving themselves ever since. Because of this, spotting a demon outside the polar zone is so rare that kids think they are nothing but urban legends. Sue silently ponders this peace treaty. Free instantly scoffs, claiming it must be a total lie because demons never embrace peace. Our hero agrees, but deeply suspects that just like humanity, maybe not all demons are exactly the same. Especially Crow, who had a mana signature similar to a demon's, yet somehow unique. Sue wonders if human-demon hybrids actually exist, remembering that this journey started solely as revenge for Minjin. But as he follows the trail, he feels this war will drag on far longer than anyone anticipated. Meanwhile, on the frozen continent, we see that Minjin is very much alive. Back at the new office, Sue instructs Vulcan and Red to circulate mana, telling them to focus entirely on their Danshin. Confused, Chu asks what on earth a Danshin even is, arguing that sitting and meditating will not do anything to boost his raw power output. Irritated, Sue snaps that they literally begged him for training, yet now they are complaining. He asks why everyone nowadays just wants to blow things up without understanding basic mana control. Vulcan wonders if this is even necessary when they are already strong. In response, Sue warns him that just because he unlocked his first skill inside a fake portal, he thinks he is a master. He does not even realize that true strength depends on how you burn your mana fuel. Explaining it just once, Sue says that when a human first senses mana, a storage space opens inside the body to gather that energy. This chamber and its power are called the Danshin, which manifests unique external abilities once awakened, based entirely on a person's inner nature. Therefore, the raw density of your skill depends on how efficiently you can manipulate the energy stored inside your Danshin. With constant training, this capacity expands to hold massive reserves. Understanding this concept is absolutely vital for beginners, and the absolute best path forward is deep meditation. So, shut up and focus. Once the lecture ends, Sue casually mentions that tomorrow he will push their bodies to the absolute brink of death. Suddenly, Junggu bursts through the door, asking if Sue knows how long he has been searching for him. Since Sue ignored all his phone calls, he jokes that the leader is acting like a stalker. But Junggu is serious. The branch director demands an immediate audience. Arriving outside the headquarters, our hero asks why the director wants to meet, wondering if Junggu was the one who ratted him out. The man denies it, guessing the boss wants to discuss the prison break. Up ahead, 2 figures block their path: Chengwen, the legendary leader of the Gangnam team, and his top agent, Haj. Annoyed, Junggu asks why he is back so soon, grumbling that he should have returned quietly. Trust me, you and I are about to see a massive clash break out here. Alright, you and I are jumping right into this mess where Sion mockingly asks if the rookie next to him is the troublemaker, while our furious team leader barely holds back his rage. Interrupted by Jumpy, he points out their trip was only to Japan, meaning 0 jet lag, before telling the kid to leave them alone. After all, failing to catch weak awakened ones must be pathetic. Then, a glass-wearing boy barks at Sue, demanding he introduce himself to these high-ranking elite members standing right in front of him. Flipping them the bird, our boy calls that his greeting and tells them to clear the path, mocking how wide they are even alongside their glass-wearing friend. Chunk lets out a tense laugh, powering up his magic to teach this mouthy rookie a lesson. Junggu snaps, asking if his brain is fried since he cannot separate work from petty grudges, while Sion demands to know who he thinks he is lecturing their recruit. Our team leader fires back, saying he must be the deaf one, brutally joking his ears are probably clogged with fat. Furious, the guy in the purple shirt snaps, asking if he should teach him a real lesson right in front of headquarters to show who runs this place, until a sudden hand grabs his shoulder. It is the branch director, Jian, apologizing and declaring that he is the one in charge here. The troublemakers freeze in shock, while Jian tells Junggu he understands why Sue was late and that Junggu should have handled it. Inviting our boy for tea, the director ignores Seiyan, who desperately yells for him to wait. Turning back, Jian drops a major bomb about rumors of the man requesting extra services in Japan, warning him to focus on actual hunting instead of wasting time on this petty drama. Now pay attention to this transition. While the stunned rivals wonder who this crazy rookie is, Sue is already inside the director's office for their very first face-to-face meeting. Our boy agrees, straight up asking why he was summoned. Smiling, Jian admits he loves directness, explaining he needs answers about the ancient prison escort mission. Since the Bessia incident transferred full authority to their branch, they simply cannot ignore a dangerous fugitive prisoner on the loose. Knowing someone who crushed dirt would never let Volk slip away, he demands the truth. The director then orders Junggu to leave the room, leaving them completely alone. Junggu silently apologizes to Sue before exiting. Jian then admits he is no fool, finding it impossible to believe their team leader destroyed that assassin group entirely alone. He refuses to let this slide, especially with Sue in the middle of it, which is why he reached out to an old contact who knows our boy inside out. Intrigued, Sue asks who that person is. The director reveals it is a living legend among first-generation hunters, Ju Kang-ho, master of the massive warrior fighter guild. Meeting up elsewhere, the old hunter asks how many years it has been, admitting he could not believe his ears when Jian claims Sue was still alive. Sipping his drink, Sue notes that time has clearly taken a toll on him. Laughing, Ju Kang-ho points out that Sue has not aged a single day in 10 years. He asks where Sue has been all this time, especially since his former disciples are still searching. Evading the question, Sue suggests ordering another bottle, since they have a massive story to share. As night falls, the old hunter admits he cannot even begin to imagine surviving 100 years trapped inside another world. Grabbing a bite, our boy explains that slaying the fourth dimension demon king triggered a massive spatial magic, though he is unsure if it was a skill or an artifact. To his absolute shock, the hunter reveals that the demon king is still breathing, leaving Sue wondering how that is even possible. Ju Kang-ho quickly tells him to relax, explaining the demon king is alive but in pieces. Apparently, the surviving demons blame the entire war on their fallen boss to save their own skin. Angry, Sue points out that the demons only did that because they were in crisis. The hunter agrees, noting humanity also faced ruin since the very first gate threw the world into chaos. Back then, humans barely managed to seal the portal, only for an all-out war to explode when everyone was already completely exhausted. Pushing through the brutal battles, the demons suddenly offered a truce, promising to rebuild ruined nations and teach humanity how to close the rifts. In return, they demanded their leaders' scattered remains and a safe haven in the Arctic until they could open a portal back home. Desperate to reclaim the peaceful lives they lost, humanity gladly signed the treaty. High-ranking representatives from every nation gathered to seal the agreement, with Dao signing on behalf of South Korea. Since then, those monsters stayed in their zone unless offering aid. Once Sue vanished, the suspicious hunters slowly drifted apart, and over time, humanity simply forgot about the demon threat. Even Kang-ho admits he never suspected them, but seeing our boy return after all this time raises serious red flags. His entire legacy was wiped from history over the past decade, sparking rumors pointing to Dao. Now, younger generation hunters have absolutely no idea who he is. He notes they fought endless battles together, and erasing his memory in 10 years is highly unnatural, leading Sue to ask if Dao secretly shook hands with the demons. Kang-ho agrees, and honestly, you and I can see why Sue is left wondering if the association president really sold out humanity just to defeat him. Sue questions what the demons actually gained by wiping his legacy, since revenge feels too simple. The hunter notes they have played nice, even helping humans adapt to mana. Sue disagrees, arguing their arrogance started the war. The old master agrees, suggesting Sue's former disciples probably know much more about what really went down. Sue notes finding them is tough, but the master mentions that Kang Yoa is still in Korea, having risen to an S-rank hunter leading the prominent Azure Flower Guild. Thinking back, he recalls how much she adored Sue, never expecting her to serve Dao. But a decade changes people, and she likely has a hidden agenda. Downing his drink, Sue complains it tastes awful, prompting the annoyed hunter to snap that he should have called Sean instead. Sue chuckles, saying his brother would literally explode with joy knowing they met, unaware that someone is watching them from the shadows. Outside, a spy calls his boss to report he sent a photo of the mysterious guy meeting Kang-ho. On the other end, receiving the image, Yoa praises him and orders him to return. Staring at her phone, Yoa whispers Sue's name, confirming her suspicions that he was indeed alive after spotting strange movements within the powerful Empire Guild. Despite her gut feeling, seeing the actual proof moves her to tears. Whispering the word master, she realizes her decision to spy on Du Kang-ho paid off perfectly. And as we leave them, after 10 long years of searching the globe, this loyal student is finally ready to reunite with her master. What a wild ride. All right, you and I are jumping into a wild encounter, where Dao stops Yoa. Without turning around, she greets him coldly, while he tells her she can call him uncle and asks why she is in such a rush. Tucking her phone away, the huntress pretends nothing is wrong. But the president grabs her shoulder, seeing right through her expression. He claims she looks like she just heard that crazy mad dog Sue is finally back. Cutting straight to the chase, the president cruelly asks her why she is trying to run off like a dog that just spotted its long-lost owner. Before she can even answer, he mocks her for being so naive. He reminds her that even though her bloodline was cast aside, she is still his only niece, and he has no intention of letting her leave so easily. With pure anger, Yoa snaps that she has only been searching for her master all along. Disao says he knows that, and he is fully aware she suspected him of causing Sue to vanish. But along the way, she actually became highly useful. Since powerful hunters are rare assets in this harsh world, he has absolutely no intention of ever letting her go. Screaming, she demands to know what rights he has after abandoning her when she struggled most. Her master was the one who raised her. The president agrees, noting the boy raised her without knowing she is a criminal's daughter. He then asks how she thinks Sue will react once he learns the truth about her past. After all, no matter how noble she pretends to be, she can never truly escape her rotten roots. Trembling with rage, Yoa calls him a complete bastard after he leaves. The next day at the heliport, Shin asks who the other hunters are, having heard from the master that Sue would personally lead this joint training, making her curious about the figures standing behind him. Our main character says both of them are his apprentices, so she and the boy need to treat them as their seniors. Shin and Bayanga quickly introduce themselves and nod in agreement. Meanwhile, Red quietly notes that it is rare to see a young huntress with such a powerful aura, deciding he will trust her judgment. With a smile, he predicts Shin will learn quickly, and she excitedly vows to do her best. Sue then warns Vogue he will die if he fools around, while Vogue sweats in his costume, knowing he must take this seriously. He begs our main character to stop bringing up his past assassin days and moves forward, while the leader declares it is time to step through the gate. Now, here's a moment you and I should watch closely. Shin is nervous since it is her first raid outside the tutorial tower, but our boy says gates are just doors, though Bayon warns of people getting trapped inside. Brushing it off, Red says the kid has a point, but humanity now holds keys to these gates, so letting fear take over will not help them gain anything. Stepping through. The young huntress is instantly amazed by the gorgeous scenery, though she quickly feels nauseous from the portal trip. Bayanguk points out the lack of monsters nearby, while Sue crosses his arms, joking it feels like a picnic. Vogue admits he struggles to understand modern setups since he is a first-generation veteran. Apparently, clearing gates is just a normal job now once people pass the tutorial and get recruited by guilds. Getting impatient, our main character grumbles that this feels like a simple low-rank run to clear out some weak beasts. He demands the rookies show what they can do before the real action starts. Though he obeys, the cocky hunter inwardly fumes, wondering why this guy gets to boss everyone around. He finds it completely ridiculous to train under an instructor who cannot even manifest his own powers. After straining hard, Shin says her skill is working, but she is suddenly blasted backward onto the ground. She quickly apologizes, but our boy tells her they have no time for that. He tosses her a strange whip, leaving her completely confused. Sue explains that it is a specialized ritual tool, and since complex patterns yield far better results, the huntress should use it as her base. Taking the weapon, she reactivates her skill with the whip ready. Suddenly, Banguk screams a warning as a massive goblin swarm surrounds them. Remaining calmly seated, our boy tells the rookies to handle it, shocking the young hunter. After all, our main character points out that, as their instructor, he is not supposed to interfere, but his trainees certainly can. Observing the boy's aggressive tracking style, Red comments that managing those beasts is no joke. He warns that if the rookie keeps burning through his powers so recklessly, his mana pool will hit 0 in seconds. Let's pause because this is pure madness. Bayanguk thinks it's insane to fight a swarm alone, yelling at Shin to hurry up. She is almost ready, but his mana completely runs out, letting a goblin rush in for the kill. Fortunately, Shin successfully triggers her Beast Tamer skill. This broken ability freezes the monster in its tracks for 10 minutes, completely stopping the goblin from landing its fatal blow. Waving a single finger, she commands the beast to back away, forcing it to mimic her exact gestures. She proudly tells Sue about her taming power, while Vogue remarks that such unique skills are incredibly rare. While Red feels excited to watch the girl grow, Frey tells Sue to absorb that ability. However, our main character says that even if it is amazing, the method is useless if she only controls one creature. Surrounded by monsters, Shin screams to wake Bayanguk up, begging for someone to rescue them. The girl deeply thanks Mensu for saving her on that day. She finally unlocked the absolute best way to use her unique powers. The costume man asks if she can get home safely, and our main character suggests finding a different mentor, but she flatly refuses. Feeling far more confident, she realizes her past does not define her, driving her to adapt and constantly refine her mana. Proud of her immense growth, the boy warmly tells her to reach out whenever she needs help. Suddenly, they spot a mysterious crowd gathered nearby, wondering if they belong to a major guild. The girl mentions hearing whispers about a negotiation going down between the Blue Flower team and rivals. Our main character asks about that first team. Shocked, she spots the hunter men, realizing this is no ordinary prison. The Empire has just found the lifeless bodies of the very first hunters. But unlike typical monster victims, their bodies remain completely intact, except for their missing internal organs. Kang Yoa finds this highly bizarre, realizing it is only possible if something was planted inside their corpses. Out of nowhere, a familiar voice calls out her name, announcing their long-awaited reunion. A young man approaches, stating that her master is back, asking if she plans to ignore him. Stunned, she struggles to find her words, only managing to whisper that he actually returned. He tries to pull her aside for a chat, but she refuses and walks away, with him following closely behind. An old man calls her rude for walking away, asking our main character if they were his disciples. He confirms it, but looks at the boy, realizing Kang Yoa is actually crying. Catching up, he teases her for hiding and weeping in dark corners again. Our main character asks what is wrong, wondering if this is because of Sigyn, and why she always takes a combat stance while crying. Bringing up Saijun again, he asks if she trained him better. She quietly replies that she was just a lost, helpless girl when he originally began her training. Kang Yoa sincerely thanks him for saving her life but begs him not to meddle anymore. He brushes it off, instantly slipping back into his protective big brother persona, arguing that this brutal world is already too cruel to face alone without choosing your own family. Since he views her as a little sister, he asks if she could ever see him as a brother. Stubbornly, the red-haired woman snaps back that she has absolutely no need for that. The young man jokes about her wanting to be trained to death, which is funny since his training is already hellish. She fires back that she never wanted to be his little sister, let alone his mere disciple. She wanted to help him while battling her own secret feelings. Whether she was abandoned or not, she still grew up pampered by plundered wealth. Genuine emotions like love were never meant for her. Frustratingly, she admits Chu was right, but she cannot sit idle. As we close out this wild chapter, she is determined to fight to the end for her savior, while a nervous man panics in his office. He gasps, calling out for Yo and Nuna, asking why she is there so late. The young woman tells him to pay close attention because this is critical. While in another room, a man argues he does not entirely distrust them. Let's dive in. Ever since those crazy gates opened, the three reverences have been on the front lines, fighting absolute nightmare demons. But his guest cuts him off, telling him to quit stalling. He finally met Minsu, and it's suspicious. 10 years ago, that kid even tamed a wild dog, forcing everyone to hesitate and watch their step first. But Kamo is built different. No tricks, no illusions. He doesn't care about peace, the nation, or saving humanity at all. Mentioning the three reverences makes him laugh because he only wants one thing: absolute supremacy. He wants to see how far he can push past human limits. He'll crush any tough opponent to grow stronger, even if it means shaking hands with demons. Besides, every world leader made demonic deals under the excuse of rebuilding their shattered nations. Now watch closely here. He claims those negotiations were necessary, but Kang Ho is speechless, asking if he caused Minsu to vanish. The boss denies it, smiling as he says Minsu's return is the perfect chance to finally destroy him. How convenient. He still has questions, but suddenly, magic erupts around our protagonist. Staring down Troy Desu, he says it has been way too long. The kid channels raw magic through his hands, shattering the glass wall, separating them to pieces. The eye-patch-wearing boss just smirks. He casually mentions that the front door was way too complicated. He says they should start the hunt before any plague gets a chance to spread. He demands to know if Troy Desu sent him to the demon world, but the boss just laughs at his dull question. The young man snaps, telling him to shut up and answer, but he keeps stalling. Furious, the kid unleashes a shockwave, shattering everything. He warns him to answer right now if he wants to live. He must know if he was involved in Minjin's death. He threatens him over touching Yoa or her disciples, but Troy Desu just flashes a wicked smile and bursts out laughing. He complains that he lost his juice and the thrill of the battlefield. I know what you were thinking, but check this out. While Minsu was stuck in the demon world, the boss was busy fighting elite hunters. Their old rivalry just doesn't excite him anymore. Smiling coldly, Minsu asks if they really need to beat him to a pulp before he finally starts talking. Kang Ho quickly steps in to stop the fight. This is a civilian area, and they are both far too high profile. Confused security guards are already noticing the noise. and Minsu's safety is not guaranteed either. If he doesn't want to ruin his and his brother's reputations, he needs to back off. The boss calls him annoying, wishing for the fun old days when they fought constantly. He missed that legendary era. He also claims he had nothing to do with Minjun's death, and that Kang-ho joined his side completely of her own free will. The boss turns away, telling them to come back later with more questions. Our hero stays silent. Kang-ho has nothing to say either, just as a knock sounds at the door. The boss tells his guard not to worry since nobody is stronger than him anyway. He then orders his men to contact the Purang Guild, prepare an A-rank gate, and bring Kang Yoa directly to him. Night falls, flashing back to 7 hours earlier. Kang Yoa explains that the autopsy showed all internal organs were completely ruptured on a cellular level. Either they fought someone with unique powers or drank something toxic. Crucially, all these fallen hunters were tied to a mysterious trade guild named IZ. They keep such a low profile that they are virtually invisible. Rumor has it, their top leader is a demon. Even if he doubts her, she'll uncover the truth her own way. Suddenly, her friend calls out, wanting to know why she is taking such a huge risk, but she just begs him not to tell their master. Sai knows she didn't stay with Choi Daesu for 10 years without a reason. Even if she joined him to track down the Hungs, now that their master is back, this makes no sense. Sane doesn't trust anyone since they all have hidden agendas. He is desperate to know what they are plotting, but suddenly, the hero enters the room, demanding to know what she said. The boy panics instantly. Our hero warns him not to lie, demanding to know if something happened to Yoa. Meanwhile, the guild master stands in front of a car. Some guards apologize for interrupting, stating that the boss is calling for her. Realizing her secret is blown, she gets annoyed, knowing she has no other choice. 10 years ago, right after Minsu disappeared, a mysterious man was summoned. This guy was one of the legendary hunters who brought the terrifying Demon King to the brink of death. Under the Demon Tribe's law, the king's authority must be absolute. He proposes a mutually beneficial deal if the demon race can keep full control over their world. Choi calls it absurd. Humans won the war, so why accept? But the demon claims they have watched him for years, discovering an endless new power, and warning him that time is quickly running out. Knowing the hunter desperately craves to fight legendary, powerful opponents, the demon offers to help him unlock his absolute maximum mana potential. Choi asks if they're doing this because they can't accept their king's defeat, questioning why they don't see him as a threat. The spirit dismisses it, claiming their perspectives are totally different. We see Choi imagining himself as the ultimate powerhouse of South Korea. Suddenly, he is inside a massive gate as his subordinate reports they found another empty gate to use. It belongs to the Infinite Guild and contains 0 monsters. The boss asks if invitations were sent properly. After confirming, the assistant brings up a worrying issue with tomorrow's meeting. But Choi snaps, warning him never to make him repeat himself. Suddenly, a familiar woman appears before him. It is Kang Yoa, asking what he is planning here. The boss tells her to watch her mouth, but she demands to know if he caused Minsu's disappearance. He replies that back then, he refused the demon's proposal, but things are different now. He watched his own records vanish and did nothing. She asks what nonsense he's babbling. Back then, people questioned him, but now he only cares about proving he's stronger than Minsu. He suddenly lunges at her, making her scream and call him a psycho. She shouts that the demon's deal makes absolutely no sense. Furious, she demands answers about the deleted records and her master. Choi sneers that she is just like her mother. As they clash with violent magic, the girl is thrown to the ground. Choi calls her a mere tool, bragging that his old inferiority complex has finally vanished. Now that Minsu is back, everything changes. Laughing through her pain, she tells him her master will never play his sick, ridiculous little game. Choi sneers that the old Minsu wouldn't waste time on something as trivial as family, but the kid left loose ends. He plans to use her as bait. He summons glowing magical chains, binding her body tightly. He warns her not to struggle, because these ancient chains are strong enough to leave her completely paralyzed. She calls him absolute trash, but then, a massive explosion rocks the facility. Our hero bursts in at full power, obliterating everything. Koi yells that it's useless. The story will be rewritten. He screams that the old hero is dead, but our protagonist ignores his rant, unleashing absolute godlike power. And trust me, you and I are about to see this villain get completely obliterated. Let's dive in as Koi laughs, boasting about a 10-year gap, but our hero warns there is no time to worry. He orders Pri to execute a full retreat, but Min insists they go all out. His companion hesitates, warning that this enemy is stronger than anyone they have ever faced, and absorbing a power this massive might break his current body. But our main character just smiles, saying this is only 50% of the power he used in the other world. Koi watches them, mockingly asking if the hero regrets acting so confident. In response, Su charges straight ahead, shouting that for a trash opponent like him, just a fraction of his power is more than enough. The surrounding area begins to shatter under their overwhelming energy. Watching from afar, Kang Yu is completely shocked by the massive gap between S rank and double S rank. Mid-battle, Choice grins, saying it has been ages since he felt this sensation. He drops all his limits, diving headfirst into pure mana. Min realizes that even after 10 years, this guy still loves showing off his toys. Suddenly, he notices a massive shift on the cliff as the rock shatters and a blinding light erupts from within. Seeing Choi wrapped in an ocean of mana, Pri wonders if he is even human, since he can actually fight a demon on equal footing. Min retorts that he has always been a wild gorilla, but still just a regular human. As our hero braces to absorb the incoming blow, Kai rushes forward with insane speed, gripping his mana-charged sword. He warns Min that he won't even have time to blink. The protagonist quickly shields himself in a bubble of energy, waiting for the impact. Smirking. Choice mockingly calls the shield pathetic and says he will grind him to dust. But Min instantly counters, unleashing a powerful spell called Spear of Ice Fangs. And just like that, the clash freezes. But hold on, you and I both know a true master like Choice won't go down that easily. The hero demands that he release Kangwa immediately. The girl wonders how their enemy can stay so calm after surviving such a brutal attack, but the villain just smiles. He claims she can fight far better than this, which is why the hero values her. Then, he sneeringly asks if that petty honor satisfies the daughter of an assassin. Furious, she screams at him to shut his mouth. Tears streaming down her face, she threatens him, while the warrior suddenly barks an order for Kenwin to freeze. One wrong move, and she gets hurt. Troy gasps in shock as Min begins gathering a terrifying pressure of mana that literally makes his skin crawl. Bracing himself, the villain declares that the real fight starts now. Hearing those words, our hero charges right at him, telling him to shut up. Koi notes the hero's brilliant mana control and prepares to strike back, mocking Min for using the same cowardly tactics after 10 long years. Min simply replies that his opponent does not even understand basic battle strategy. The villain admits he was young and reckless back then, acting without a single thought. But now, after analyzing these attacks, he has finally realized something. Confused, our hero questions his words. Koi confidently declares they are no longer equals, delivering a devastating slash. Seeing this from afar, Kangwa screams for her master in absolute horror. Back in the clash, the hero smirks, admitting Troy finally said something right. Because indeed, they are not equals at all. Min effortlessly blocks the lethal blade, a weapon designed to slice entire buildings in half. Yet against our hero, it does absolutely zero damage. Gritting his teeth, Troy asks him if he spent the last 10 years doing nothing but fighting. He reveals he has been fighting for 100 years, unleashing an explosive counter that blasts the villain away. Crashing hard, the man laughs, enjoying this way too much. Dusting himself off, he steps forward, mockingly asking if the hero was saving up his energy just for that. Now here is where things get completely crazy. Toy decides to go all out, ripping off his double S rank limiter bracelet, a device meant to control high-level hunters. Disgusted, he tosses it aside, officially becoming a wanted criminal. Min mockingly laughs, saying a dog collar suits him perfectly. He asks if he worked so hard to reach double S rank just to get government permission to fight. The rival warns the hero not to flatter himself, claiming he has other motives. Still, facing Minsu is the ultimate thrill, since he has never found a worthy opponent to test his true limits. Our hero scoffs at his opponent's endless boasting, declaring that it is finally time to see what he can actually do. The hunter immediately fires a devastating beam of energy. As the hero blocks, the sheer shockwave of the clash sends painful tremors directly toward Kangwa. She realizes that the mere shockwave of their battle is shattering the earth. If this keeps going, countless innocents will die, meaning she has to stop them regardless of the cost. As their clash intensifies, the surrounding destruction spirals out of control. Locked in a deadly duel of raw mana, Toy suddenly grabs his weapon and unleashes a lethal strike straight at Min. The hero counters instantly, ordering Pry to release a thunder strike. Fighting through intense nausea, his companion manages to discharge the electric attack with massive force. Toy realizes that even at full strength, the gap between them is still massive. Consumed by utter frustration, he screams out in pure rage. Mid-flight, a monstrous beast erupts from the thrown weapon, biting the shocked hero. Sensing the danger, Min acts fast, commanding Pry to immediately activate his tamer skill. Troy stares in absolute disbelief, wondering what on earth this guy has been doing for the last 10 years. Meanwhile, Min claims ownership of the beast and commands it to shred his rival. The hunter braces for impact, but out of nowhere, Kangwa leaps directly into the center of the battlefield. She screams, demanding to know if they have both lost their minds after seeing all this destruction. With the portal on the brink of collapse, a global disaster is looming. She warns Choi that if it fails, he will end up in front of an international tribunal. The hunter snaps back, calling her an arrogant brat. But Kangwa reveals she has already alerted the association, and since their response team is incoming, this fight is over. Min quietens down, reflecting on her words. Suddenly, Choi's discarded bracelet begins to beep, flashing with an incoming high-priority call. It is Edward from the association, demanding an urgent meeting immediately. The hunter grunts that he is heading back. Walking away, he mutters that this is exactly why you do not tame wild beasts, completely losing interest in the fight. Koi declares the battle is over and retreats. Left behind, Kangwa panics now that Min knows her past. She never wanted to betray someone who showed her genuine kindness and has no idea how to explain her dark family secrets. Seeing her distress, the protagonist gently approaches her, asking if she is doing okay. Hearing his warm words, Kangwa tears up, realizing just how deeply he cares. She eagerly throws her arms around him while he chuckles, telling her she has far too much energy. Staring at his open laptop, the president questions why they are going to such extremes over a single hunter's testimony, arguing that no actual laws were broken. Meanwhile, Kanga confirms the chaos on her phone, while Desert complains the response is way too extreme. Honestly, you and I know things are just getting started. You and I are diving into a massive standoff as Blackwood smugly explains that everything changed when he removed his limiter. Listening with pure rage, he hears Blackwood explain that double S-rank hunters cannot engage in personal fights, and using magic against HMCS members means instant arrest. Even worse, given his high profile, he could face a trial in the international court. Blackwood keeps piling on the accusations under international law, but notes that during times of peace, chaos is unnecessary. Because of that, he wants the president to handle things quietly inside Korea. Over on the screen, Blackwood stands up, concluding they still need to interrogate the target directly to get the full story. Sipping his hot coffee, he promises to personally meet the guy who dared fight a double S-rank hunter, leaving the old man wondering if things are truly going down this path. Looking out his office window, he threatens to wait for him in Korea. Meanwhile, Dasu is furious, knowing he has to face Sue again, and Sue is far more powerful. Flashbacks show the painful moment he realized the young man was superior. In these 10 years, Sue grew so incredibly strong that he practically became a different species. Even after all this training, the old man simply cannot accept the massive power gap between them. He desperately craves the thrill of risking all, fighting without any rules again. Staring at his clenched fists, he knows he is still too weak. But at least now, he has a target truly worth destroying. The Mad Dog has returned. A week later during the board meeting, Sue and Yoa notice their colleague has completely ignored them. Pay attention here because things are about to get tense. Shyly welcomes her master back, but the playful teasing stops when Yoa demands answers on the Minjin case. The investigation hit a massive brick wall, only proving that the culprit was an outsider from another country. The hunter snaps, claiming Choi Dasu only used her as a tool for his own greedy benefits. Feeling cornered, she nervously defends herself, claiming everything was purely based on evidence. But he gently pats her head, knowing that if Dasu actually cared about family, he never would have pulled such a dirty stunt. Awkwardly, she says her master already healed her completely. But this is about something far deeper. It is about cutting ties with her toxic family bloodline once and for all. He tells her that regardless of her mother's crimes, her path is her own. If she feels guilty, the best way to make amends is by living a good life. As they talk, she remembers him promising to save her amidst the battlefield rubble, causing her to let out a soft, shy chuckle. She knows she would have died alone, making his help priceless. Now, with tears in her eyes, she feels guilty for dragging Sejin into all this chaos. She wonders how hard it was for him to trust her with his deepest secrets. But Sue notes that Sejin is highly cautious and they must talk tomorrow. Even though the thought makes her anxious, her master firmly reminds her that they are both adults and the meeting is locked in. Checking his phone, he admits he has no clue how Dasu covered up that disaster, but notes that Sejun has a dangerously sharp intuition. Suddenly, Jungu bursts in, complaining that Sue ignored his urgent calls. Right behind him, Baek Gunho reveals they just got a message from HMCS. They announce that Vice President Blackwood is flying to Korea specifically to meet him. Min-soo realizes Edward is sticking his nose in, which is a major pain. Playing dumb, he asks why the VP would want him. A strict gag order is active across the branch, leaving everyone clueless. Still, The chief wants answers and hopes Sue will talk, since his name was brought up. Let's pause here. Sue respectfully refuses to talk, citing the gag order, so Gunho drops the issue until headquarters finally lands in Korea. As they walk out, the chief demands to know why one of Dasu's allies is targeting Sue. Feeling the heavy tension, Yoa suggests they leave immediately. Walking down the street, they share a friendly laugh. But Sue gets serious, asking what her next move is going to be. She intends to follow his orders and uncover the truth behind Sejun's death. Suddenly, a suspicious car pulls up. Shocked, the young girl instantly steps in front of Sue to shield him from any danger. The tinted window rolls down, and a cold voice mockingly asks why she chose to stick with Sue. It is none other than Choi Dasu. Sue fires back, refusing to waste time on demons just to entertain a psycho like Dasu. He tells him to stop playing games unless he has a death wish. The old man sneers, mockingly questioning Sue's weird habit of hanging out with weaklings who can never hope to reach his godlike level. Annoyed, Sue warns him he will regret this, slamming the door. As the car speeds away, a mysterious reflection of a half-demon girl appears. Back at HMCS, the staff are whispering. Earlier, Dasu had ambushed Sue and Yoa on the street, demanding that Sue get inside his car immediately. Furious, the girl snaps at his arrogance. But the old man dismisses her, saying she needs to hear the truth before playing master and disciple. She prepares to strike, but Sue holds her back. He promises to call her later and steps into the vehicle, leaving Yoa seething on the sidewalk. The car speeds away, leaving her behind. As they weave through traffic, Sue asks how he can act so smug after getting his ass kicked. But Dasu insists the war is not over. He claims things are just getting fun, and thanks to Sue, he finally has a worthy opponent to arrange a rematch with. Sue scoffs, amazed this crazy bastard is a president. But then Dasu mentions a name Sue knows all too well. Pandemonium. The illegal faction that should be extinct. After Sue vanished, they used demons to contact Dasu, begging to wipe their records. The old man wonders if they are a cult or a secret demon wing. Ever since the demons were defeated and banished to the polar circles, all traces vanished. And that leaves us with one massive mystery. Dasu reveals that while world leaders are completely clueless, a hidden group of half-demons has been located deep in the Middle Eastern deserts. Sue is shocked by this news. In that region, humans became half-demons through corruption or mixed blood. Lacking horns and wings, they blend in perfectly, making them impossible to track. But they still wield black mana. That is the only solid intel from government channels, as entering that zone is incredibly restricted. Dasu asks if Sue was collaborating with beasts during his 10 years away, since he uses black mana. Sue denies it, but Dasu warns that no one can resist that raw power. Get ready, because you and I are diving into a story where our main character refuses to be compared to trash, demanding the driver halt immediately. Stepping out, Sue warns Dasu not to twist things. Meanwhile, over at the company, employees are buzzing with gossip about Blackwood's sudden arrival, with everyone already crowded inside Director Baek Gunho's office. The director introduces Hunter Sue from the North Korea branch. Blackwood greets him politely, but the young man skips formalities, instantly demanding to know what Edwin is plotting this time. The vice president then requests a private moment to speak alone with the hunter. Curious but annoyed, Gunho agrees to step out. He promises to wait right outside in case trouble starts, silently warning himself that this reckless young man needs to tread very carefully. The moment they are alone, Blackwood snaps, grabbing Sue by the collar. He furiously demands to know where the hunter has vanished to for the past 10 years. With a sudden punch to the chest, the dramatic tension melts away. Blackwood admits he's just glad his friend is back, while the exhausted hunter begs him to just drop it. Catching up, Blackwood is absolutely shocked to hear that Sue was trapped in another dimension. This legendary figure who once saved their world had completely faded from everyone's memory. Now those forgotten memories are rushing back to Edward. After all, how could he ever permanently forget the savior who rescued him multiple times during that horrific chaos? Sue humbly brushes it off, asking how he found Yawa. Blackwood explains that their agency is currently tracking multiple corporate cases spreading across the entire globe. With her leading a key branch in Chian, securing her contact info was easy. Seizing the moment, Blackwood shifts focus and offers Sue a massive transfer straight to their main headquarters. Without hesitation, Sue declines, leaving the vice president utterly baffled. Blackwood argues that peak talent belongs in a better place, but the hunter reveals he is running his own investigation. Blackwood pushes back, pointing out that their massive corporate resources and legal authority would make things much easier. Sue agrees to consider it, asking for details. Blackwood reveals a desert portal was uncovered, where a bizarre incident left several people dead from poisoning. Sue is stunned to hear illicit enhancement drugs caused this, Still deeply confused, he wonders what kind of awakening substance this could possibly be. Now pay attention here, this is where things take a truly dark turn. They still have zero clues about the toxin, but awakened humans have been mysteriously self-destructing for 6 months. During autopsies, forensic teams discovered that the victims' bodies had completely ruptured at a cellular level. No chemical traces were found, so the cases were dismissed because the dead were mostly criminals. But then, a Chinese witness came forward. They literally watched a man snort a strange black powder, fly into a blind rage, and explode right in front of them. Inhaling this substance unlocks terrifying mana bursts, turning ordinary users into literal ticking time bombs. As Sue processes this horror, he asks how it connects to the desert. Blackwood confirms they believe that specific wasteland is the ground zero where this entire crisis originated. But how is that the start if people died 6 months ago? Blackwood explains that after analyzing the outer perimeter, they finally managed to secure a physical sample of the powder. Furthermore, Kang Yoa spotted a highly suspicious corporate vehicle nearby. Thinking it over, our hunter mutters how annoying it is that everything always goes down in the Middle East. Switching gears, Blackwood notes he knows Kang Yoa is his student. Since she encountered the drug first, she got dragged headfirst into this dangerous investigation. If Sue helps her out, she will face far less trouble. Pushing his buttons, Blackwood emotionally guilt-trips him, asking if he will really just let his precious student die. Calling him Mad Dog, Sue realizes with annoyance that Blackwood had this entire conversation meticulously planned from the start. Ultimately, he agrees to go, especially since he has unfinished business there anyway. Blackwood is thrilled, knowing they can finally get real results now. I know what you are thinking. What about his illegal brawl? Blackwood demands answers about the unauthorized fight, but Sue shrugs it off, calling the elder nothing but ambitious trash. A long letter sits on the desk. Finishing his final line, Dao smiles, realizing Sue is still human. Back home, Sue's brother asks if he is really joining the International Investigators' headquarters. With suitcases fully packed, the hunter confirms he is going, simply because young Edward personally asked. The brother knows him but wonders how they connected. Dodging the details, Sue says some things happen and Yo will explain later, just as his phone suddenly begins to ring. It is indeed her. Sue's brother politely steps out, giving him some space. As he packs the rest of his gear, Pry suddenly asks if Europe has good chicken. Then Pry asks if Sue will have to push his mana past the absolute limit again. Playfully teasing him, Sue asks if he is just scared of running dry, but Pry scoffs, claiming he is tough enough. The real problem is that something strange is happening. Sue asks for details, and Pri reveals that since returning, he loses control of his own power whenever the hunter gets stronger. So, those dimension travel side effects did not just hurt the hunter. That desperate, limit-breaking battle they fought ended up acting like a massive trigger. Since making their contract, Pry has zero desire to harm his host. But if the mana keeps rising, things will get incredibly dangerous for both of them, with truly catastrophic consequences. Sue finally grasps the danger. Still, he doubts he is that dependent on Pri's strength unless they run into high-tier demons, which is highly unlikely. Jokingly, he notes that while tedious, his fight with Dao was actually useful. Getting serious, the hunter turns his thoughts back to that mysterious awakening drug. Sue finally boards his flight to Europe. Meanwhile, Kumo and Hikari argue that bringing an outsider into a classified case breaks protocol, especially since Hikari is already the designated Asian representative on their team. While they discuss this, Kimu arrives, raining down compliments, declaring Hikari to be the most beautiful woman on Earth. Ila remains furious, hating Blackwood's call and stating she prefers working with Yoa, which instantly makes Takara highly jealous. Suddenly, an agent interrupts, announcing Director Leone wants everyone in the conference room immediately. Much to their annoyance, their new teammate has finally arrived. He confirms the newcomer just landed alongside President Blackwood. Layla is shocked that the vice president personally escorted him like royalty, confirming he is an agent from the Korean branch. She refers to him as Minsu. Walking silently with their bags, the duo enters as Blackwood opens the meeting, thanking the gathered team for attending. He introduces Hunter Minsu of the Korean branch, presenting Isla and Stefan, before Hikari introduces herself and her assistant Kumo. With introductions over, the boss gets straight to business. Trust me, you and I are going to want to see how this intense case unravels next. You and I are diving right into a massive conspiracy here. Blackwood politely asks Isla for a quick brief, but since it is highly sensitive info, his secretary suddenly interrupts. Wishing Team 1 luck, he leaves the room. An awkward silence hangs in the room for a second. Isla clears her throat to shake off the tension, and finally, she starts the official briefing. She boots up the project screen to explain their mission. The team has to investigate where those mysterious drums were found. The final threat level, double A rank. They found bodies laced with some weird chemical additive, alongside clear signs of a heavy battle around the portal. With zero actual drugs inside, they are holding off on the raid until the investigation wraps up. To make things weirder, several vehicles were abandoned just a few meters from the site, and our main character, Sue, is taking in every single detail. From here on, the plan is to explore inside the gate and scout the surrounding area. Once she finishes her speech, Layla asks if anyone has any questions. Sue speaks up, saying he already knows all this, so he's good. Hikari and Kumo glare at him with absolute annoyance when he casually asks if there might be demons inside. Layla finds this theory totally bizarre, asking if he is seriously blaming demons, but our hunter calmly replies that he just wants to double-check the facts to be absolutely sure. Think about it, if humans made this drug with their abilities, hunters could track it in a second. Sue points out that the vehicle company is super shady and demands to see all their files. Hikari snaps, asking why he is bringing up completely irrelevant nonsense. But Sue stays totally unbothered. He just shrugs and says it is worth looking into, especially since he is just sharing what he heard. The team leader lets out a sarcastic laugh. Pay attention to how smug she is, mocking his theory and pointing out that even high-level directors never thought of that. He just watches her calmly. She snaps back, claiming that if this was actually a solid lead, the council would have found it already. She keeps trashing our hunter, calling him an outsider who just dropped into the investigation to spout garbage. She proudly reminds everyone that it has been 10 years since the human-demon peace treaty, calling his theory outright discriminatory. Raising her voice, she is about to demand who he thinks he is, but Isla quickly steps in to shut her up. Stefan tells everyone to chill out. Isla agrees, reminding everyone of the massive stakes and telling them to focus on the case. She tells Sue to stick to the main plan. Next up, they discuss tomorrow's high-stakes mission deep into the desert. Hours later, the meeting wraps up, and they agree to meet at the airport. But that Japanese leader is still incredibly annoyed and desperate to know who this new guy is. She grills her assistant, demanding to know how some random nobody could show up out of nowhere and get red carpet treatment from the vice president. Isla overhears this and tells her to relax and let it go. But Hikari accuses her of taking his side. Honestly, Isla admits she thinks the guy has way more experience than he let on. Meanwhile, Sue is literally yawning in the meeting room, taking it all in. He tells Frey that this job is way more annoying than he thought. Frey agrees, reminding him he is just an outsider here. Suddenly, Blackwood walks in, laughing about how Sue sure knows how to make an entrance. Our hunter jokes that his busy friend must have a packed schedule, since he took forever to show up. The vice president jokingly says that running this global agency feels like child's play. Channeling his inner Stan Lee, Sue replies that with great power comes great responsibility. Then he asks what Sue thinks of the team. Keeping it completely real, Sue says they are pretty annoying, but he does not care as long as they stay out of his way. Blackwood is not surprised. His friend has not changed a bit in 10 years. Still, he warns him that this desert trip is a routine mission, so he needs to play nice and not cause trouble. All right, let's fast forward a bit. The team arrives on a cloudy day in the Middle East. The local branch chief gives them a warm welcome and tells them to head to their rooms to get some rest. He explains that transport is already set up to take them into the desert tomorrow. Blackwood thanks him for the hospitality, while Frey complains to Sue about the absolutely brutal heat. Sue notices there are zero signs of demons in this city, and the mana flow feels perfectly fine. He wonders if there is a mistake, but a sudden voice cuts right through his thoughts. It is Hikari. She warns him to watch his step if he does not want to end up dead. But all he can think is how incredibly annoying she is. Meanwhile, grabbing Sue's suitcase, the branch chief asks if he knows about half-demons. He admits he has never seen one face-to-face, but knows they live in a hidden desert village. Sue keeps digging and questioning staff, but nobody seems to know anything about this cult. A female staff member explains that half-demons look exactly like humans, so unless you have a mana detector, you cannot spot them. Things are better now, but 10 years ago, the war between them was absolutely brutal. Watching the crowd, Sue thinks that hiding in plain sight and pretending to be human is the perfect cover. Honestly, nobody would ever suspect a thing. Scratching his head like he is solving a puzzle, he is frustrated by the lack of clues. He decides to investigate the desert completely alone, making Frey ask if he is some kind of lone wolf. Sue keeps walking, observing the locals. He spots a guy shouting into his phone while Frey keeps whispering about how everyone is in squads, but Sue is just wandering solo through the city. Our hunter sits down, saying he is just enjoying some quiet time to investigate. Suddenly, someone calls his name. It is Ela, demanding to know why he is out wandering instead of resting up at the local headquarters. Sue casually replies that he is using his free time to get a head start on some field checks before tossing the exact same question right back at her. She explains that Stefan is wrapping up the final gate permits and evaluating potential risks. Isla then mentions she is curious about his work at the Korean branch, since she never ran into him there. He clarifies that he was only recently brought on board. To his surprise, she pays him a huge compliment, saying he carries himself like a veteran with 20 years of field experience. Smiling, he returns the compliment, mentioning that the vice president told him she is highly respected for her massive operations over in Europe. Hila gets slightly flustered, modestly saying she is just an investigator in the northern region. Suddenly, Sue remembers that he once worked alongside a hunter from that exact area named Hans Schroeder. Isla repeats the name in shock. She pulls up a photo on her phone, showing it to Sue to see if it is him. The young man stares at the screen, looking at the smiling face of an older hunter. Sue instantly recognizes him, even after all these years. He asks how she knows him, and Isla reveals that the man is actually her uncle, but she never expected him to be friends with an Asian hunter. She notes that Sue and her uncle seem to be around the same age, making Sue laugh awkwardly, saying it is a long story. Reflecting on it, she says Hans would be thrilled to see him. She explains that her uncle has been trapped in a coma for 2 years due to portal syndrome. Sue is genuinely shocked to hear this. He softly remarks that there are still so many dark mysteries about how mana affects humans. Looking back, she explains her uncle got trapped deep inside a dangerous gate while frantically searching for a lost comrade. He was barely dragged out alive, and since then, constant hunter healing spells are the only thing keeping him breathing. She has searched everywhere for a cure, but has not had any luck. Sue mentions that some legendary portals drop rare elixirs. Isla sighs, admitting that is her absolute last hope. And trust me, you and I are both hoping she finds a way to save him. All right, you and I are about to witness an epic portal raid. Stefan reports everything is ready, but the leader still has to alert Hikari and Kumo first. The hunter silently walks to the car, lost in deep thought. Soon, the entire crew is driving across massive sand dunes toward the portal, though the rough road and constant delays are making everyone seriously impatient. Behind the wheel, Stefan warns that the GPS is completely dead, forcing him to find his way manually. Kumo worries about nightfall bringing extra danger, but Sumu points out that this entire mission is unpredictable. Beyond the portal lies an entirely different world filled with bizarre creatures. Depending on the dimension, they could step into a sunlit paradise or a terrifying hell with absolute darkness. There is no way of knowing until you take that first step. The Japanese leader snaps at the hunter, saying everyone knows this, and that most portals are just like Earth. Annoyed, Isla glares at her through the rearview mirror and argues that if the portal takes things from people, it is far more than just a simple doorway. Mocking her, Hikari brings up that silly theory about portal syndrome, claiming only fools lose track of time. Her endless rambling annoys Sue, who asks if they really have to discuss this now. The leader tells them both to shut it. Finally, they pull up to the isolated zone. Hikari notes that the entrance is massive, while Kumo reminds everyone is in AA rank. Stefan points out that the exterior has already been cleared. But studying the crime scene markings, Sumu worries that all the mana traces are gone. Nothing looks off on the surface, but it feels like someone intentionally wiped the tracks. As the Japanese duo walks ahead, Isla begs them to wait so she can scan the perimeter. But Hikari refuses to wait, calling it a total waste of time to examine a cleared zone. She and her partner keep marching straight toward the glowing gateway. The trio sighs at their impatience as they approach the glowing dark rift. Meanwhile, from the shadows, hooded figures watch them, and a creepy guy with a sewn-shut mouth smiles. Grinning wide, he says they are walking straight to their doom. Watch closely, because the clock is already ticking at 5:30 p.m. Nestled between desert mountains, this portal is an A-rank threat. As the group organizes their gear, Isla announces they will start their investigation in the northern zone. Stefan is uneasy since they haven't solved hunter crimes in years. Stepping into a magic circle, Isla reminds them they are not here to clear the portal. Activating Genesis 3, her secret garden skill, roots instantly spread to detect mana and life. With a loud rumble, massive tree trunks erupt violently from the rocky ground. The leader repeats that finding drug clues is their main goal. While Sue analyzes the skill, Isla steps out of the circle and reports 0 monsters within 30 kilometers. The hunter watches the massive roots spread. The leader promises to keep scanning, though her radar weakens near the edges of her range. She suggests they split up within this safe zone to search. She warns them that preserving the crime scene is priority number 1, so avoid fighting unless attacked first. Hikari tells Kumo to sweep the zone. Sue scoffs that she really loves playing boss, but the Japanese warrior snaps back that she is more than qualified to lead. Ila tells everyone to fan out and search. As they head in separate directions, she orders them to report back immediately if they spot anything strange. The hunter questions the point of a team if they just split up immediately. Embracing his lone wolf nature, the young man walks alone, carefully scanning the terrain. Instantly, he spots a scorched black stain on the ground with faint smoke rising. Crouching down, he realizes someone definitely messed with this spot earlier. Sifting the gross powder through his fingers, Sue notes that the residue feels completely wrong. The mana embedded here is not natural at all, actually feeling more like pure demonic energy. Bagging a sample, Sue slips it into his pocket. Meanwhile, high up on a mountain outside the portal, an old man answers a ringing phone. Reporting to his master, the old man notes 5 suspicious hooded figures entering the area. Let's pause here, because this crew is dangerous, and he tells Sue he will step in if needed. For now, it is better to stay alert in case these intruders try to block their only exit. After hanging up, Sue asks how long this old ally has been tailing them. The hunter explains he has been shadowing them since they hit the city, hired to keep watch without drawing any attention. His little companion is highly impressed, and the young man boasts that once you commit a crime, you must survive somehow. He focuses back on the dirt, trying to identify what poisoned the local mana. As the sun sets, the hunter mutters that things are getting annoying, just as Kumo returns with a report. Exhausted, Kumo admits he swept every single corner, but found zero trace of the drug. Hikari frowns, saying that makes no sense for an uncleared dungeon. Her assistant suggests the evidence might have been left entirely outside. But Hikari counters that even if they fled the dungeon, using the drug in a fight would have left behind obvious traces. Ever since the incident, this entire portal region has been completely sealed off from the public. If the victims cleaned up, we would see signs. If they did not, residue would remain. The investigator is convinced there is something extremely valuable hidden right here. Opening a magic circle to activate her skill, she vows not to return empty-handed and disappoint her boss, the branch chief. Unleashing a burst of power, she swears she will tear this ground apart to find hidden mana. Hikari summons a giant serpent spirit, ordering it to dig up the terrain. A blinding pillar of light shoots straight into the heavens from her location. Spotting it from afar, Isla panics because nobody warned her about this reckless stunt. Stefan rushes off to investigate, leaving Isla completely isolated. Instantly, the hooded figures surround her. Meanwhile, Kumo praises Hikari as her massive serpent tears the soil apart at incredible speed. Proud of her power, she waits for hidden secrets to surface. But to her absolute horror, mangled corpses start rising from the churned dirt. She gasps, asking if those are corpses, but Kumo shields her. The monsters rise like zombies as the young man realizes they are dark attribute undead, starving and locking onto their prey. Kumo draws his weapon against the ghouls, noting they never hunt in packs like this. His master yells that they can analyze them after turning them into dust. With a sharp command, she orders her giant serpent to devour them. The glowing beast lunges forward, showing its massive fangs and hissing tongue. The crushing weight of the magical snake shatters boulders and flattens the undead. Smug, the Japanese leader, asks how they dared to mess with her. But she celebrates too early as even more undead claw out of the dirt. Her assistant retreats, screaming a loud warning to the others who are running over. As monsters ambush them, Stefan blocks a deadly strike with his power just in time. Trust me, you and I are in for one hell of a fight. Let's dive right into the action, where Hikari wonders how they missed these monsters. Steven blames her for destroying the terrain, while Camus yells at them to stop arguing. Unleashing his beast spirit skill, Camus charges headfirst into the creatures. The heavy impact blows them back but doesn't kill them, forcing him to yell that they must destroy the heads. His master grumbles but commands her giant serpent to strike again. Its massive tail whips out, crushing 2 more ghouls. Hikari warns her living energy is draining fast and urges Steven to call Isla. The assistant crushes the monster's skulls, pointing out that their combat styles are the worst possible match for this crowd. At this rate, they're not going to survive much longer. Suddenly, mana gathers as the hunter summons a massive magic circle. Dozens of glowing arrows rain down, piercing the undead heads. Hikari is completely stunned, watching him target the horde like sitting ducks. The creatures collapse, screaming in absolute agony. He did all that barehanded, leaving her wondering who this guy really is. She desperately wants to uncover his secrets. Meanwhile, Steven catches his breath, thanking the hunter for the save before suggesting they retreat and regroup for the next day. Exhausted, Camus asks if they can finally leave the portal, but Hikari refuses. Sue tells her to stop being stubborn because messing with the terrain only ruins the crime scene. Annoyed, she asks if losing mana is somehow better than losing time. But suddenly, Kama points to the ground. Another wave of undead is crawling up from below. They are completely surrounded again. Hikari demands to know why Steven hasn't called Isla, but he admits she's not picking up at all. Worried, the hunter asks if Steven left her all alone. Sue immediately bolts, leaving the others totally confused as they fight off the horde. He runs frantically, dialing the old woman. Now pay attention to this part. He orders her into the portal, trying frantically to track the intruders. Moving through the rocky terrain, he spots something ahead and cautiously watches. Peering through a crevice, he whispers into his phone that someone was taken. Isla is gagged, realizing she has been totally ambushed. She glares at them, wondering how they broke in when every entrance was locked. Robert asks his boss if he can kill her now, but the man says she is bait. Clenching his fist, the old boss insists they cannot afford any more screw-ups if they want to dominate the black market. He believes that in a world ruled by raw power, you must seize every profit. He advises the young man to save their funds. Robert says he knows the power of the drug, but wonders how long they must wait for the old skeleton's orders. Ivan activates a magic circle using blood dripping from his wrists. Dark, reddish juice flows heavily from several fresh cuts carved into his arm. As the fluid hits the dirt, a black slime begins to squirm. Suddenly, a rotting green hand claws upward. The sorcerer summons more ghouls, proving he is a terrifying necromancer. His forbidden magic allows him to manipulate life and death, completely spitting in the face of nature. Among all summoning paths, this dark art is the absolute worst. Watching his master create these monsters, the old man wonders if he is even human. But to rebuild his father's syndicate, Almac, he must shake hands with the devil. Robert asks if the vial holds the drug, wondering if he can get a small taste. The boss warns that even a tiny dose boosts a hunter to S-class rank permanently. The human body cannot handle that sheer power, causing the user to implode after a brief burst of godlike strength. He silently realizes it is fueled by untraceable mana. Ivan walks over, prompting the old man to ask who is supplying the substance. In response, the young sorcerer only lets out a creepy laugh. He mockingly notes how bold it is for the old boss to lose control of his men, lure investigators here, and still demand to know suppliers. I know what you're thinking, this guy is shameless. The stuttering boss defends the drug mishap, but the young man mockingly refuses to share any info with him. After all, a dumb boss might accidentally spill secrets to his dumb subordinates. Hearing this disrespect, Robert gets completely furious and prepares to throw hands. The half-human Kiki steps in, telling them to keep quiet because the investigators are close. Ivan looks surprised by her sudden arrival and asks what brings her here. Cutting right to the chase, she tells him his reckless actions are unnecessary. While she hates to interfere, his behavior is putting the entire half-demon faction at serious risk. The necromancer scoffs, asking if she is really trying to lecture him. He assures her that if things go south, he will just slaughter everyone himself. Kiki wonders if he has spent so much time with rotting corpses that he has forgotten how humans act. She approaches Isla, noting things are getting very dangerous. Ivan says he will keep her alive, but Kiki cuts him off. She clarifies that she is not talking about the woman, but about him. Activating a magic circle, she warns him to think things through before it is too late. Glaring at each other, she asks if they are truly on the same side. Ivan tells her to just watch from the shadows. Robert whispers to his boss, asking about these two, but the boss snaps at him to play dumb, adding nobody will survive tonight. Meanwhile, Steven, Hikari, and Camus walk past a trail of fallen bodies. The investigator notes that if Sue hadn't cleared the path, they would have been in deep trouble. Even so, he thinks they need backup. The Japanese leader stubbornly refuses to give up, prompting her brother to grab her arm to snap her out of it. They follow the trail only to bump into Sue again. Visibly panicked, Steven demands to know what happened to their leader, Ila. The young man explains she was likely captured, showing them the mana signals he has been tracking. Camus gasps in shock, wondering who could possibly kidnap someone so strong. His partner cannot believe their powerful leader was captured. The hunter points out that those ghouls did not just appear by magic, telling them to follow him if they want answers. Steven asks if the summoner and the kidnappers are hiding inside, and Sue confirms it. Suddenly, Hikari catches a very strong scent. Entering a deep cave, Steven worries their leader was dragged inside. Suddenly, they come face to face with the two masterminds and an army of undead. Robert sneers, mockingly thanking them for saving him the search by walking straight into a trap. The Japanese leader is stunned to see the intruders, but her brother immediately charges. Without a second thought, Camus unleashes his skill and attacks. Getting blasted back, Robert loses his temper, shouting that government workers have no manners. He furiously vows to make them kneel right now. Ignoring him, Camus keeps smashing the zombies. The evil boss laughs at the rookies, opening a magic circle to activate his wolf's spear skill. A devastating wave of golden lightning surges right toward them. Camus gets incredibly irritated by this. The battle explodes as the young investigator quickly conjures a massive stone wall to block the lightning. So what do you and I think she'll do? The tight cave means no serpent summon, so Hikari decides to use the chaos to slip away and find Isla. Alright, you and I are jumping right into a crazy situation. Stranded from her group, she confronts Ivan, unleashing her magic. But the necromancer just sneers she is beyond saving, as Kimu desperately rushes to save her. Witnessing this, Sumu sees absolute chaos. Panic-stricken, she flees through the war zone. Meanwhile, Minu stays dead calm, channeling every single ounce of his immense power. Blinding beams of light pierce the battlefield, wrapping around the blonde warrior. As the spectators marvel at this incredible energy, the dark sorcerer just smiles, bragging about his foul necromancy. It is his first time seeing such an ability, and he is genuinely impressed. But then, a cursing, glasses-wearing kid interrupts, boldly challenging him to a duel. He reminds the kid that they have unfinished business. Watching from the shadows, an observer notes that the fortune teller is surprisingly strong, though the party is still heavily disadvantaged. The sorcerer mocks Minsu's courage for standing his ground, eager to see if he can actually fight. Suddenly, the freezing winter gale ability erupts across the battlefield. The spell completely melts the flesh right off the undead. The villain commends Su's ruthless efficiency, wondering what kind of brutal life made him so terrifyingly skilled. He guesses Su must be a monster who preys on his own kind. Grotesque skeletons keep crawling up around them, but our main character knows he still has time to go all out. He unleashes another skill, violently blasting the corpse's back. His rival can't believe a mere human possesses this much mana, leaving the hidden observer absolutely stunned. But the sorcerer just calls his power cheap trash, fit only for pathetic humans. Mini refuses to react, keeping silent under the wave of insults. Now pay attention, because the villain drops a major reveal. He laughs that a human hired him, claiming he only took the job to help trash like Subi reborn as useful, dead puppets. Deep in thought, Minsu realizes that all of this is true, knowing someone else orchestrated this entire nightmare. Calling the demon's noble crusade a total disgrace, he triggers the sorcerer's rage. He mocks our hero's desperate struggle, but Subu just watches. Annoyed, the rival snaps, demanding to know how long he'll keep that smug look. Subu casually points out that half-demons use demonic energy, not mana. Stunned, the villain freezes and demands to know what he just said. Our hero exposes him as a half-demon, a cursed outcast rejected by both worlds. Yet he acts superior while wielding mediocre powers, completely triggering the villain's pure rage. Spitting insults of human scum, the villain's attacks begin to slow down. Minsu notices this and prepares his partner, Free, to unleash their next big move. Activating his skill, he asks if the demon is getting scared, drawing a panic denial. Energy surges through Minsu's body as he gets incredibly pumped to unleash his tamer ability. Massive iron chains bind both the demon and the mindless zombie horde. His blonde ally notices the monsters have completely frozen, leaving their fighting allies totally baffled. In an epic twist, the zombies are turned directly against their masters. As confusion reigns, a terrified cultist desperately begs Ivan to do something. The undead swarm their former masters. Absolutely losing his mind, the rival cannot comprehend how anyone could hijack his horde, furiously demanding to know who this guy is. Shocked, Ivan questions if Su is even human. While our hero boasts about feeling much stronger after his last move, Free just groans that he's going to throw up. Watch closely here, he tells his little bat to rest while commanding the horde to charge. Cornered, Ivan has no choice but to unleash his full power. He triggers a massive explosion of lightning blasting in all directions. Cornered, the villain goes all out, but Su casually floats behind him, asking if this pathetic display is truly all he has left. Stunned, the enemy realizes he is using an acceleration skill. Mockingly, the young man thanks Ivan for breaking the wall, conjuring a sphere of golden lightning. The blinding golden glow completely eclipses the battlefield, nearly blinding the half-demon before a violent burst of sparks explodes directly at Ivan. With a smirk, the half-demon girl steps in, shielding her partner with a protective barrier. Chanting the word crow, she smiles right back at Su. Bored, our hero sighs, admitting he didn't think she'd interfere like this, and asks if killing is off the table. Standing over Ivan, the demon girl notes he's still useful, but Su can have him later. Kiki warns him not to fight the half-demon yet. Weighing his options, our hunter decides to back down despite the future threat he represents. Analyzing the situation, he prioritizes his weakened team's safety, knowing the demon girl is far more powerful than she seems. He demands to know which half-demon is behind this shady business. Kiki admits she knows plenty about the group, but claims things are different now. Their current ruling faction is moderate, and Ivan acted entirely alone, using their name for his own gain. When Kiki claims she has no idea who the client is, Sum gets frustrated. He asks how she can plead ignorance when Ivan was acting on their behalf. She denies everything, claiming she only saved Ivan because he is valuable, insisting they knew absolutely nothing about his secret plots. Sue stares at her with deep suspicion as she claims she cannot answer his burning questions either. It is incredibly obvious that our hero does not believe a single word she says. As the exhausted squad heads for the portal exit, the hunter reluctantly accepts her explanation, coldly warning that there will not be a next time. Playfully, she asks how he could believe her, but Sue reveals he read her mana waves, where her lies clearly showed up. As Kiki looks bored, the hunter asks one final question. He demands to know who this we is that she keeps mentioning. With a sly grin, the demon girl unleashes a beam of blue light, mysteriously revealing she is the Eyes. Teleporting away with Ivan's body, she leaves Sue in deep thought. He deduces that the half-demons are likely clean, as using human-hating subordinates is a terrible business strategy. He senses an ominous, powerful energy radiating from the drug, but it is not dark magic. This is a force he has never encountered before. Recalling Kiki's final words, he vows to investigate this mysterious group. Meanwhile, a deeply remorseful Isla apologizes to everyone, thanking them for saving her life. As she speaks with the group, Sue approaches. Here he immediately asks about the necromancer, and he explains his escape due to reinforcements. Once again, Isla blames herself for everything. Cammy steps in, suggesting they leave the portal first before discussing anything. Walking in heavy silence, our hunter quietly reflects that to avoid all this drama, he prefers working entirely alone. Well, not completely alone, he still has Frey. He calls out to his companion, but gets no response. Staring at the eerie portal, he calls for Frey, but gets only silence. Trust me, you and I are left hanging as we skip 2 days later, where Blackwood hears the shocking news about the ghouls. Even more shocked, he admits he has never heard of a necromancer, barely believing they were not the ones behind the drugs. He deeply apologizes for assuming this was just a simple field inspection. But Sue smooths things over, saying nobody could have predicted this madness and they were lucky not to be injured. Grateful, the vice president agrees that everyone can safely return to work immediately. All right, you and I are back with our favorite hunter, who just got praised by Edward but is casually heading home to Korea. Will wants him to say goodbye to the kid, but Sue is already moving. While walking down the street, a familiar figure blocks his path. It is none other than the Japanese leader waiting for him. Looking down, Hikari thanks him for healing her, embarrassed by her performance. As she passes him, she promises that next time, she will absolutely be of more help. Sue shrugs it off and keeps walking. Honestly, he is more worried about Free, who has been completely silent since that massive battle. On his flight back to Korea, he tests out his new bat-like abilities. He can only wonder when his little shadow companion will finally wake up again. Back at headquarters, a secretary reports that the Middle Eastern branch tracked down the Olmec group who attacked Timo 1. They did not produce the drugs, and with their leader dead, suppliers are cutting all ties. Flipping through the files, Blackwood asks about the portal's status. She shows him photos of the battle damage, explaining the gateway is highly unstable and will close soon. If the higher-ups think they ruined the crime scene, things will get messy. Blackwood sighs, but his secretary warns him that all the board advisors are controlled directly by the president. She warns him that Director Karjol Wan is watching closely and will absolutely use this incident to stir up massive trouble. Just as they discuss minimizing their risks, the door swings open. Speak of the devil director, Karjol Wan, the special hunter himself, walks right in with a highly sarcastic smirk. Striding toward the desk, the old man immediately starts talking, mocking the drug investigation and pointing out how badly things went for the vice president. Now pay attention to this snake, he sneers that rumors are spreading about Edward hiring some random Asian hunter, only to return completely empty-handed after destroying the entire portal site. Visibly irritated, Edward counters that Wan is dead wrong. His team successfully fought off and defeated the highly dangerous invaders. Wan scoffs, claiming they only bust a small gang and found nothing useful. As Blackwood glares in annoyance, the old man asks if this slow pace means the entire investigation is going to be severely delayed. He then boldly suggests they make the drug case public. The vice president laughs out of pure frustration. If details leak, the entire public will find out about this dangerous magic drug, and the situation will spiral completely out of control. Adjusting his cuffs, Juan coldly counters, asking if their goal is not to break the supply chain. Before leaving, he drops a chilling reminder, even without news coverage, those who want the drug will always find it. He leaves after suggesting they consult other special hunters, leaving the vice president absolutely furious. Meanwhile, over the phone, Sue learns about the case potentially going public and completely opposes the entire plan. He makes it clear he wants to handle this himself, even though the situation is turning out much more complex than expected. In the office, a bald hunter mentions seeing actual necromancy with his own eyes. Still on the line, Sue admits he is looking into the Pandemonium organization, but has not found any solid leads yet. Sue spins a pen, listening closely to Blackwood. As for that gate, the vice president says he sent a backup team to investigate, but the portal was completely dead and they found nothing. Intrigued by this info, Sue listens as the vice president explains that because of the corpses inside, the gate was quickly sealed without proper analysis. Since only carrion remained, it proves the necromancer and the Olmec group had cleaned up. Blackwood asks for Sue's take on this as he recalls the dangerous trio they fought. Portals are like dimensional gateways, and without knowing their origin, they could never predict where an empty one would appear. Sue starts mapping out his clues on paper. I know what you're thinking is Sue onto something. He actually guesses the portal was fake, a pocket dimension disguised to sell drugs, though Edward laughs it off as impossible. Still, the vice president trusts his sharp instincts and agrees to look into it, hoping for Sue's continued support before hanging up. Suddenly, a colleague asks him to join a game, prompting an older hunter to scold the kid for bothering him, but Sue happily accepts the invitation. One coworker tries to sneak off but gets caught by the bald manager. As Sue stretches, he hopes Free will wake up soon. Meanwhile, night falls over Seoul, where crowds line up at a nightclub. Inside, a packed crowd is dancing as a sharp-dressed man walks through. He stops at a VIP door and tells the guards to move, but they demand the secret password shadows have no color. He calmly replies, only the red strawberry juice remains, and the heavy door instantly swings open. Inside, a shady guy in sunglasses greets him, noting it has been a very long time since they last met. The visitor nods, asking if their drug business has been running smoothly lately. The host confirms everything is fine, then asks about their associate. Sitting on the couch, the guest warns that the drug investigation is blowing up in Korea, so all transport is suspended. Agreeing with the call, the host snaps his fingers and promises to arrange tight security for his departure. Just then, a woman enters and lights her cigarette as the man complains that the authorities are ruining their plans, making an immediate return impossible. Suddenly, another associate arrives, shocked to see the tattooed visitor. An odd guy in clown makeup arrives, looking thrilled to see his ally. John remarks sarcastically that he is always incredibly punctual for their meetings. He apologizes for making him move such a massive shipment, warning that trouble is coming before they even start, pointing to two briefcases on the table. He asks the clown-faced gangster if he wants to see what is inside. Unlocking and opening the cases, the mobster stares at the stacks of cash in total awe. The next day, two office workers spot Sue, joking that he actually showed up for work. As they walk by, they gossip about the vice president visiting headquarters specifically to summon him. They wonder what kind of backing the rookie has, but shut up when Huang Jianvu approaches. Leaning over Sue's desk, he asks if he has seen the official files that just leaked. Sue asks if he means the magic drug case, admitting he is not at all surprised the investigation was made public. His buddy is shocked he already knew, realizing his recent business trip was tied to this. As for keeping it secret, Sue replies he was only following his orders. His colleague thinks that is wild, since they bypassed the entire branch chain of command. Just then, an employee interrupts, calling for the team leader because of an urgent matter. She says the branch director wants both of them in his office right away. Inside, the director stares at them in silence, preparing to deliver some heavy news. He explains that top international directors have requested absolute cooperation for a massive global investigation. He already knows about the illegal drug and Sue's secret involvement during his recent business trip. Sue confirms it, but the director demands to know what went down. Now you and I have to wait and see why the Korean branch is suddenly carrying the weight of the entire world. Alright, you and I are diving straight back into the chaos as the team leader stands there completely baffled by the director's tense, stressed-out reaction. He honestly asks what kind of massive results they expect from a tiny country like Korea, which is usually clean of drugs. Shaken, the director admits the pressure is coming straight from the very top of the board of presidents, but failing now means his promotion goes down the drain. Seeing this, Sue calmly asks if they should just quit. The boss snaps back immediately, absolutely not. He reminds them that once Sue gets promoted, he can't forget where he came from. Their only mission now is to smash this investigation and put up legendary numbers. Period. To make that happen, he reassigns the entire team under leader Jonggu to this massive awakening drug case. He adds serious pressure, warning that failure here will completely ruin the reputation of the entire Korean branch. Sure, other units are on it too, but the biggest leads and the hot zones are going straight to Gangbuk. Jonggu is stressing out big time and tries to argue, warning that the other teams will throw a massive fit, but the director completely ignores him, turning to Sue to promise unlimited support as long as he delivers on this domestic case. With the ground rules set, the director reveals their first mission. Looking at the mountain of paperwork on the table, the leader wonders how things got this crazy already. Apparently, he had the data team compile every single suspicious case, leaving the staff totally wiped out. Long story short, a massive abandoned warehouse on Nanga Island has gone completely wild. It was already a known drug den, but now sketchy characters from other regions are suddenly flooding the place. Even worse, awakened criminals have been actively clashing in the ruins, sparking brutal turf wars all over the area. Flipping through the files, Jonggu realized this is way too big for just them. Fortunately, the director already called in backup from headquarters, a squad that knows this case inside out. Let's check out who this mystery group is, as Sue stares at his screen while arriving at the trash-filled, sunny warehouse. Just then, a truck rolls up and parks. Sue can't believe his eyes. The special internal backup is none other than his own brother and Yoa. As they walk up, she smugly asks who else he expected. Sue jokingly asks if they couldn't just send some lackeys instead, while his brother wonders where the rest of the squad is hiding. The hunter explains they're on standby for backup since a giant crowd would just slow them down. Yoa totally agrees, especially with civilian addicts likely wandering inside trying to score a hit. She points out the clashes are likely between rival dealers or their hired muscle. Sue notes that either way, it's a perfect chance to round up the junkies. Sizing up the massive building, she remarks it definitely looks like a major hub and asks if they should make their move. But Sue's brother suggests a stealthier approach, splitting up to infiltrate from different angles. As they discuss the plan, Sue's sharp hearing picks up footsteps and people talking about hot local clubs nearby. With a quick hand gesture, he signals the others to quiet down. Creeping around a rusty container, Sue eavesdrops and hears a guy boasting about traveling a long way just for the high-quality goods. The two dealers walk toward the gate, joking that this new drug changed the game, but the insane profits make it all worth it. The trio squeezes even tighter into the gap to overhear them. One thug brags about being in this dirty business for 15 years before asking if some big shot named Jang Kwon has arrived to handle things. It's been months, after all. But then, a voice suddenly asks, "Who is Jang Kwon?" The dealers jump in shock to find 3 people blocking their path. One snaps that junkies should use the back entrance. Sue just smirks, saying he doesn't care about drugs, they're going in right through the front gate. Seconds later, the dealers are left hogtied on the floor. Slipping past the gate, Sue asks for their next move. But Yoa's plan is simple, just beat up everyone in sight. Sue's brother tells them to huddle up. He pulls a sleek pen from his coat, instantly transforming it into a giant staff. He channels a massive magic circle, casting a spell called Secret Light to turn them invisible. Now tell me, wouldn't you be just as hyped as Yoa seeing her body turn completely invisible right before your eyes? The brother proudly explains that elemental magic is his bread and butter, with endless uses. By bending and refracting the light around them, they become completely unseen. Sue laughs, saying if their little pet was here, he'd probably try to eat that magic. His brother asks where the vampire went, but Sue just dodges the question, proudly noting how much his sibling has grown. Blushing, the brother begs him to stop treating him like a kid, while Yoa demands some praise too. But the hunter loses his patience, telling them to stop messing around and move. Deep inside the warehouse, shady deals are going down left and right. One dealer barks at a buyer that his price is way too low, while half-conscious junkies lay scattered on the dirty floor. Slinking closer, an invisible Yoa observes them and notices they aren't using the actual awakening drug. The brother whispers that such rare stuff would be sold in secret, suggesting they eavesdrop to find the real deal. Yoa sighs, pointing out that this place is massive and there are simply too many low-lifes to arrest manually. But Sue's brother disagrees, arguing that catching small fish who get released tomorrow is pointless. Closing one shop just opens another, meaning they have to completely tear down the organization from the roots. Suddenly, a bizarre sound catches their attention. Out of the shadows, a completely crazed, terrified guy sprints right past their invisible forms, vanishing deeper into the dark building. The nearby dealers look over, annoyed, grumbling about how these junkies keep hiding out here to shoot up instead of leaving. One thug wonders why the most far-gone addicts always crawl straight down into the basement. Overhearing this, Yoa shivers, whispering that this creepy place is giving her serious goosebumps. Sue orders them to stay put and watch the perimeter while he investigates alone. Although they try to argue, his cold glare completely shuts them down, leaving them no choice but to obey. Sue quietly slips down into a dark, complex sewer line used by criminals to dodge the cops. Instantly, he senses a bizarre, unsettling energy vibrating through the damp air. It doesn't feel like normal mana. Instead, it feels like that summoner's magic he witnessed recently, making him wonder if spiritual beasts are lurking nearby. Activating his magic to scan the area, the truth isn't what he expected at all. There is absolutely no hostile or demonic aura bleeding into the air, leaving him totally puzzled about what this is. Realizing they might just be harmless ghosts, a tiny girl suddenly appears, begging him not to hurt her friends. Shocked, Sue wonders how this kid could possibly see right through his active invisibility. He gently asks her identity, but the little girl answers with a question of her own, stating this damp place is her home. Dumbfounded, Sue asks how a sewer could be a home, but she softly replies that home is just wherever she can rest. Frowning, the powerful warrior asks where her parents are and why her tiny body is covered in so many painful bruises. And that's where we leave it. Guys, she reveals her parents abandoned her for drugs, leaving her hurt and alone in the dark with only ghosts for company. All right, you and I are diving into a wild story as this little girl unleashes her power, admitting she is weaker than her brother while our main character realizes she made the ghosts visible. She nods, explaining that her ghostly friends protect her, warning her about bad guys and helping her find her way through the maze. Smiling, Suma realizes this is actually going to be super useful for him. He asks for her name, and she says it is Can. Our hero suggests asking her supernatural friends for a huge favor. Can they locate those bad guys hiding inside this giant labyrinth? Cian confirms they can do it. Meanwhile, on the other side of the facility, a thug asks his partner if they are holding the real deal. His partner nods. It is the pure compound. This means a single dose can easily take down any high-ranked hunter, making this drug incredibly rare and hard to get. The thug worries about nasty side effects, but relaxes, hearing there are zero risks. They are hiding out in a totally disgusting dump, but for good reason. This is their secret lab, and the thug boasts that he knows exactly what he is doing when a strange sound echoes. The vibe gets incredibly tense, and the guy asks his partner if he heard that noise. He did, but shrugs it off, claiming it is just some stupid rat. Trust me, that was definitely not a rat. Whispers of creepy things lurking down here were true. Suddenly, a cold shadow of a hand brushes right past his face, sending both thugs into a massive panic. They bolt in pure terror, convinced they are being chased by a ghost. But suddenly, Minsu appears at the door with Cheyenne on his back. He smirks, unleashes his telekinetic powers, and slams them hard against the wall. He tells them he is no ghost, he is very much alive. Minsu tells Cheyenne to hide somewhere safe while he cleans up, thanking the little girl for guiding him straight to these lowlifes. He mockingly asks why they did not share this amazing drug with him. Minsu tells the guy to get up, but gets zero response. Man, did he really hit them that hard? Now pay attention here because things are about to shift. He spots the damaged drug container on the ground, confirming his suspicion that the compound is in Korea before a massive, crushing pressure catches him completely off guard. A scarred brute steps out, mocking our main character and calling him a filthy little rat. The big guy demands to know how a kid managed to track down their ultra-secret hideout. He wonders if rumors of their drug leaked, but the scarred leader suspects a rat inside their own group. Pinning our hero down under his boot, he orders his men to finish Minsu off. Pinioned to the floor, Minsu Wu suddenly unleashes his raw energy. Blinding beams of purple light explode outward, blasting the surrounding thugs, though the scarred boss stands his ground easily. Minsu realizes this boss is way faster than he looks. As the thugs scramble to form a quick counterattack plan, our hero demands to know who they work for, but the boss interrupts, shocked that Minsu is not even bruised. The thugs surround our hero, laughing and mocking him for playing dead. Minsu just fires back, saying playing dead is still better than hiding in the ceiling like cowards. Pissed off, one thug barks, demanding to know which guild Minsu belongs to. Our hero just grins calmly, unleashing a sudden burst of power that lifts them all by their necks. Dangling his enemies in midair, Minsu casually asks if anyone wants to talk. The scarred boss steps back up, mockingly saying our hero has been listening to way too many rumors lately. The boss channels massive energy into his fists. He activates his devastating Lion's Roar technique, forcing both of them to unleash every ounce of their latent power. The thugs barely break free from his grip, falling hard onto their knees. Staring down the boss, Minsu scoffs that he would not take their stupid drug even if it were free. I know what you are thinking, this is where Minsu ends them, right? Well, he calls their defense a warm-up. But these beat-up thugs realize this is life or death, unleashing a massive, desperate explosion. One bleeding thug reaches down, grabbing a drop vial of the drug from the floor. Desperate to survive, they swallow the compound just as a massive hand reaches out. We see the horrific transformation of the thugs who down the drug. Their bodies instantly bulk up and regenerate, radiating raw, monstrous power as they charge straight at our protagonist. Minsu notes their strength has surged insanely. Driven by pure rage, the mutated thug unleashes a deadly new skill, trying to crush him. Minsu notices the blocked exit and charges right back at them, smiling as he realizes these fools are now completely dependent on that drug to survive. He preps his next big spell. Blinding energy flashes across the room. Minsu chuckles, realizing he forgot to hit one last target. Meanwhile, the scarred leader grins, thinking he finally has our hero trapped and finished. But out of nowhere, Kang Yoa arrives on the scene, blasting a massive torrent of fire straight into the villain's face. She giggles, saying they always end up clean up after him anyway, asking if her brother and she can join the fun. Wiping his hands, Sejin sighs that these thugs were nothing but trouble. Yoa agrees, noting the drug thugs are abnormally strong, but still far below S-rank hunters. Minsu asks how on earth the duo figured out his location and got here so fast. His brother points at the blushing huntress, revealing she is the one who followed him. Flustered, she explains that once she made it down here, the little girl actually guided her. The little blonde girl steps out, saying 3 against 1 just is not a fair fight. Minsu walks over and thanks her, while the curious redhead asks who she is. Our hero promises to explain later. Looking around the filthy room, his brother states they cannot possibly leave a child here. Inspecting a dropped vial, he notes these illegal power-enhancing drugs have finally hit Korea. Yoa adds that taking a higher dose of this junk most likely leads to instant death. Minsu asks if they have heard of the Ghoul Slayers, since those combatants were at least A-rank hunters trained to kill. This means they were likely hired as security for this illegal lab. Sejun asks if our hero believes a massive syndicate like Bestia is pulling the strings, or if demons are involved. Minsu nods, admitting it is currently just a strong suspicion. He wonders if some traitorous humans are collaborating with demons to orchestrate this plot. While clearing the area, Yoa mentions how weird it is that Mad Dog's presence vanished 10 years ago. If true, this could ignite an all-out war between humans and demons. Sejun agrees, noting there are at least 10 of those monsters out there. But since they are still breathing, it is best to bring them in for questioning. Suddenly, the little girl gasps, warning that a massive danger is coming. Instantly, Sejun and Yoa draw weapons. Minsu grabs the girl, shielding her body just as a massive explosion rips through the room. Out of the smoke, a figure mocks them for leaving the enemy alive instead of cleaning up. He sneers that he will show them how real professionals handle business. A man in blue emerges with an entire battalion. Our hero dryly asks if they always travel in herds. With Sejun guarding her, the little girl starts backing away, while our hero senses that this squad has mana levels far beyond the weaklings they just fought. Stepping forward, Minsu mocks them for arriving right on cue, asking if this blue-clad guy is their leader, while secretly wondering if the Blue Flower Guild master sensed them. He notes that since 2 of their opponents are powerful S-rank hunters, they must eliminate everyone here. The leader sneers, saying it does not matter who he is, since they are all dying. Sejun tells his brother to leave the hunters to him while Yoa covers them. As Minsu charges, "You and I know this fight is about to be legendary. Alright, you and I are about to watch this villain completely underestimate our main character." Smirking, the man mocks the boy's skills, asking if some hack trained him. Furious, the enemy ignites his power, shouting in rage before delivering a massive, crushing blow. Worried for his safety, the huntress yells out to our boy while letting loose an arrow that strikes the enemy leader. Furious, he immediately targets her. Leaping away, Yoa wonders how her system abilities have suddenly returned. Suddenly, a masked thug sneers that she has no time to get distracted. Sweeping in to save her, Sayun agrees with the villain, saying they should definitely clear out the weaker trash first. With 2 hunters already knocked out, the young man yells to Sue that it is his turn. Scratching his head, our boy smiles, finding Shun's style bizarre but feeling his own body finally remember what it is like to fight in a team. He realizes the feeling is actually great. Turning around, he asks if his allies are warmed up yet, since they need to wrap this up in 10 minutes. Activating his broken ability, our main character charges forward like a meteor, instantly putting the enemy leader on the defensive. As he strikes, Sue mocks his opponent for relying on the same heavy, right-handed swing, asking if that is his only trick. Prepping a counter, the blue-clad villain snaps that the kid talks way too much. Now, watch closely, because Sue knows exactly what this guy is doing. He is absorbing and reflecting attack energy, a counter skill. Caught completely off guard, the enemy realizes he is in deep trouble. With a smug smile, our hero tells him that his little trick is useless now. Lo barely manages to dodge, clutching his injured arm while demanding to know how a mere kid can use the Azure ability. Attacking again, our boy says it is obvious, casually revealing that he was the one who created that technique. The blow sends the blue-clad fighter flying. The villain realizes he cannot recover in time before the next strike. Su calmly explains that mana can take endless shapes depending on how you manipulate your core. Once these shapes are structured and named, they become Azure. Desperate, the enemy flees, looking for a chance to escape while screaming for number one to protect him. Suddenly appearing behind him, our protagonist warns him never to let his guard down, throwing him so hard into the concrete wall that the entire structure cracks. Picking up a dropped drug vial, Su notes he only answered because the man asked. But since this boss has no intention of talking, they need to swap roles, especially since Su is the only one left standing. Pinned to the floor, the boss asks who this kid is. Crouching down, our boy notes he clearly does not listen, since it is his turn to ask questions. Grabbing the enemy's face and shoving the vial down his throat, Su demands to know why he did not take the drug himself and who is really behind the distribution network. Spitting the vial out, the guild leader sneers that this batch is just a knockoff. He claims nothing will change because, in the end, only the fittest survive. Ever since the gates opened, raw awakened strength is all that matters. Even if they wipe out a few street dealers, a brand new drug will just take its place. The villain asks if it is not a blessing for the weak to shine temporarily before being consumed. Grabbing his neck, our boy retorts that by that logic, he wins because he is stronger. The crushing blow makes the blue-clad boss spit out fresh blood. Preparing to end this, our protagonist warns him to speak before getting consumed, demanding to know who made this illegal booster drug. Only agonizing screams echo through the room. Watching the horror unfold, Yoa holds the rescued child close beside Seiyun. You and I can probably agree with what Seiyun says next. He asks Yoa if Su has changed since 10 years ago. She smiles, noting he is stronger and colder. After all, nobody spends a century in another world and returns the same. Crossing his arms, the glasses-wearing young man mutters that his brother acts like someone who returned after losing something precious. He often behaves as if he is barely human. Disagreeing, the huntress believes his core remains unchanged. Suddenly, our boy interrupts, asking them what exactly he supposedly lost. Shun denies it, asking if he learned anything. Wiping his face, our protagonist reveals the drug is being distributed across multiple regions simultaneously, with the main Asian hub operating out of China. Unfortunately, the boss exploded before revealing more, likely triggered by a binding mana oath. Concerned, the glasses-wearing youths suggest they head back. Still holding the kid, Yoa promises to locate the girl's parents. Su realizes that if they do not stop this soon, the drug will spread uncontrollably. There has to be a main command hub for the Korean region. Suddenly, we are taken to a private club, where a tattooed man demands to know why their factory was abandoned. A subordinate explains that the HMCS raided the facility, cutting off contact with Leu and the Oni assassins. The tattooed boss then asks about the whereabouts of Pu. The young man replies that Pu is anxious about his twin, but remains under orders. Annoyed, the tattooed boss grumbles because he was planning to head back home tomorrow. Suddenly, his phone rings. Answering it, he asks Daejung what is happening, who responds that he heard the Korean operation ran into a serious setback. Confirming the news, the man explains that they released the product in multiple regions at once, which naturally drew the attention of the authorities. Smiling, the man in red admits he already knew, since he was the one who leaked the info to the HMCS. He argues that losing a few spots is fine, as total control is inevitable. While the agency is distracted with empty factories, they must focus on moving more product. Concerned, the short-haired man warns that they will be tracked down, which is extremely dangerous now that they have lost all contact with Liu and the Oni assassins. Daejung tells him not to worry because the team signed a binding contract. Besides, since all capable Korean hunters died 10 years ago, they should just stay put. Moving to the association director's office, he explains that although numerous dealers and addicts were arrested inside the factory and their website was destroyed, they cannot celebrate. The entire crew responsible for selling these illegal drugs to awakened hunters was completely wiped out. Jong-woo adds that the captured group claimed they had no choice because the buyers were desperately sick. Even so, they successfully secured a massive batch of the original drug and confirmed the supply line starts in China. Ju-won asks if that is truly enough, prompting the frustrated man to snap back. Crossing his arms, the director asks if the other units made progress. The blue-haired investigator reports they have very few leads. Beside him, the silver-haired hunter reveals the South team faced the same dead end, having to retreat after an ambush. Furious, the director asks why they are all so useless. Jong-woo then asks if the illegal drug is actually circulating. Screaming, the old man asks if the hunter thinks headquarters invented this crisis, especially with the Japan branch in utter chaos. Jong-woo quickly backtracks, saying that is not what he meant. The director barks that even with samples, they cannot analyze the ingredients without sending them to headquarters. Whispering, the junior hunters mock him for being completely obsessed with climbing the ranks. The director demands to know where Sue went, learning he took a day off. Elsewhere, Yoa asks if our hero likes his gift, and he wonders if he should accept it so easily. The huntress insists it is more than fine. Seyun agrees, and honestly, you and I know our boy deserves a place of his own. Get ready, you and I are diving back into this absolute masterpiece. As this cute little girl holds his hand, our main character worries that adjusting to a new home might be tough for a natural awakened child. Smiling, Yo calls her a rare talent, telling her to obey her new master. Saijun jokes that he will basically be here every single day too, especially considering how much cash he spent. Honestly, this place is basically his second home. Laughing, Sue asks if this was their plan all along, but the warmth suddenly drags him back to memories of his old team. Back then, DJing asked why they had to live together just to fight demons. Our boy simply replied that he needed them close, promising to always protect his people, no matter what. Yo tells the stubborn kid to stop whining, but he snaps back that they are not his kids. Our hero spent 100 brutal years in another world surviving on those memories, yet he still failed to protect them. Snapping back to reality, he vows that this time must be different. Turning, Ken teases that he is walking way too slowly. Smiling, our boy says that once Frey finally wakes up, she is going to be incredibly shocked. Soon, night falls and we see the little girl sleeping peacefully in her bed. On a call, Sue asks Jang-gu if the lab results were inconclusive. The man confirms that this illegal drug possesses a strange, unknown mana. But linking it to demons is pure guesswork, since demonic energy is not rare anymore. Anyone can just head over to Huchinra to get their hands on it. Besides, no nation wants to start a war over baseless rumors. Hanging up, our hero sighs. Unfortunately, it seems these demons have actually earned humanity's trust. Unpacking boxes, he realizes they are being misled. Without any clues on pandemonium, this case is dead. Their only hope? The research on demonic energy left behind by Minjun. Hoping to find answers, our boy digs into his computer. He quickly tracks down an old article by his disciple linking demonic energy to soil contamination. But when he clicks it, the blog is locked tight. Pay attention here, because this is where our hero realizes that this security block is definitely no coincidence. Suddenly, Shan sneaks in and asks what he is doing. Surprised, our boy tells her she should be asleep, reminding her that kids need rest if they want to grow. Clutching her teddy bear, the little girl mutters that even when he whispers, the ghosts still tell her everything, leaving him completely stunned. He says it was a quick call, but she insists she hears everything. That is how she heard those scary men talking before he saved her. Kiru asks what they said. After pausing to remember, Shan says she heard that John Ken entered the country and unloaded goods in Naku to spread them everywhere. Meanwhile, a blue-haired runner is violently smashed into a wall. The attacker sneers that he finally caught him. Looking down on the kid, the thug asks how a trash C-rank hunter dares look at their guild. Reaching into his pocket, the trembling teen gasps that he had no choice and needed money. Confused, his bullies demand to know what he is planning to do. The blue-haired teen suddenly chugs a vial of the drug. Instantly, a massive explosion tears through the alley. We cut to an emergency meeting at HMCS headquarters, where officials worry that this slow-burning drug will soon spread like wildfire. A pink-haired man warns that while global branches are doing their best, the situation is looking extremely grim. He then demands an update on the investigation, making Jian look visibly sweating and nervous. Before he can answer, an elite snidely remarks that the Korean branch failed miserably, acting on a low-level worker's unproven claim that China is the main Asian distributor. Another agrees, mocking their sudden lack of greed. But a bearded senior tells them to cut the vice president some slack, as he surely has his reasons. He suggests handing full control over to the hunter who made that claim. Under immense pressure, Jian has no choice but to agree. 2 days later, Jang-gu asks why Sue is leading the case. I know what you are thinking, and yes, they are totally using him as a shield. Nodding, Sue explains it's just political gameplay from headquarters. They do not expect results, so they need to dig up their own leads to survive this mess. Staring at the paper Sue handed him, the team leader asks what Narek is. Our boy reveals it's a vital clue from the rescued kid's testimony. The man notes it could be a bar, a restaurant, or a company. Annoyed, Our boy asks how a top agency cannot track down basic drug traffickers. Worried, Jangu says they likely never registered a legal business name. Su shrugs it off and tells him to demand help from the 7 major guilds of Korea instead. The team leader protests that it is confidential, but Su tells him to just hide the details. After all, their useless branch manager cannot stop them now anyway. Besides, Sigan and Yoa always show up when called. Jangmu claims it is because they have a connection to him, but our boy tells him to shut up and stop playing nice. Otherwise, every hunter in the nation will end up addicted to this drug. So unless he wants that nightmare, he needs to shut up and make the calls. Next, we are inside the presidential office of Cheongwa Dae. The leader greets Gillian, saying it has been a long time. The master of the Immeasurable Legion Guild simply nods. Getting straight to the point, the president asks if this concerns her guild. Handing over the documents, Gillian explains that HMCS sent an official cooperation request to all guilds in the heptagram. Surprised, the president asks what she means. Gillian explains that the details are classified, but the investigation targets out-of-control awakened criminals, berserk hunters, and cases of sudden, massive power spikes. The president wonders how a basic government agency dares to demand help from the mighty heptagram, questioning if this is the work of Mad Dog, who seems to be running completely wild. Stroking his chin, the president tells her she can handle this however she likes. After all, she is the guild leader. Gillian picks up a pen to write. The next day, Jangu asks about the official refusal letters that just landed on his desk. The blue-haired girl explains that every guild agreed, except for Immeasurable Legion and Frozen Soul. Holding his head, the team leader admits this is actually a miracle, since he expected almost everyone to flat-out reject them. Su walks in and asks what they are discussing. The team leader smiles and tells him he showed up at the perfect moment. Scanning the list of guilds that signed the deal, our hero asks if it is unusual for hunters to transfer over to HMCS from private guilds. The blue-haired girl says it is surprisingly common. Although the pay and benefits are much worse than in private guilds, some hunters genuinely want to serve the public and protect people. Checking the roster, Su warns they need to watch Diamond, White Lion, and Warrior King guilds closely. There is a high chance someone inside their own organization is leaking top-secret files. Jangu asks what the link is, but Su explains the massive profits involved. Trust me, you and I are about to see which major guild is dirty when the next chapter drops. Think about it, it is super sketchy that they actually agreed to cooperate unless they have something to gain. Our boy asks if his theory makes sense. Before Jangu can even reply, Kim bursts into the room with some insane news. He finally found Narak's hidden location.